Welcome to Destiny Massive Breakdowns, episode 294. I'm Legola Flash.
And I'm Ill Physics, and we're here with another deep dive into Destiny 2.
Deep dive into Destiny 2. Oh my gosh. So this week, we are Immortal. Well, at least many of the Destiny community thinks they are running around with their SMGs. We're definitely going to be talking about that, the new Trials weapon, and along with Iron Banner refresh, and then along with this gigantic Crucible blog that we got today. Oh my gosh. And all that to say, it was a tough call not covering Lightfall weapons this week. I know that since day one, everyone has been asking, what's y'all's role on this? How should I craft this? Because everybody grinded it out so fast. And now and even me and Tony, we're both aching to talk about round robin.
Oh my God.
Y'all heard a little bit of it, but I really want to talk about that stuff. The fusion, of course, I want to talk about, but it would be crazy to not talk about number one, the blog that we just got, but then also the Trials weapons, the SMG going crazy, all the new Iron Banner stuff. Like, this is the hot stuff, so we gotta talk about it.
Yeah. And remember, we were having that discussion. We're just like, hey, you approached me. You're like, Tony, what do you think we're gonna talk about weapons-wise during Lightfall? And we both agreed, okay, well, whatever's hot, right? Whatever's hot.
Here we go. The real response was, I got thoughts. And I was like, wait, you got thoughts like what is like? And then I was like, oh, the Immortal. And he was like, yeah, I got thoughts.
Yeah. I played against that quite a bit this weekend, so we could definitely talk about that. But yeah, of course, before we get to the weapons stuff, how was your week? Because I've got my week right here, but how was your week?
Well, despite spending 2 full days filming weddings this weekend, which is my day job stuff, I still managed to get like 150 games of Trials in or something like that, and had just a blast. Like, I was playing at 3 a.m., man, in the solo playlist with the new matchmaking settings, having the time of my life. Honestly, I've been really blown away by the feedback of people getting to play solo and going solo flawless for the first time, or just even enjoying themselves in the playlist. I was talking with the PvE guys just before this over at Podcast versus Enemies, another branch of the Destiny Massive Breakdowns community, and some of them were talking about how much they enjoyed it too. And so it was really cool to just see everybody having a good time, and I had a great time. I played so much with a team when it first came out on Friday night, and then solo pretty much the rest of the time. Got some crazy SMGs, had some crazy experience against SMGs, and just overall having a great week, diving into the Iron Banner stuff, and then still digging round robin, which I'll talk about in a second once we get to some corrections from our last episode.
Of course.
How was your week, man?
Man, yeah, my week was, it pretty much, like, I don't know, because we're content creators. I don't even know, and I don't have a family, right? I don't have a wife. I don't have a kid. So my week is, I don't know what day it is. I don't know what day it is. So when you say, how was your week? I'm just like, oh yeah, my week ended, really, really well with some great news, but it didn't end. It was actually like Tuesday that I got the news, like Monday or Tuesday that I ended up getting the news. So the news is that, my dog Pretz, who's my baby, that's my heart. She's like 12 years old. She's a little miniature schnauzer. And so we thought that she had a sarcoma, like a cancerous tumor on her right paw pad on her leg. And so she got surgery to get the lump taken off. And then the biopsy came back, I think, on Monday. And the vet texted me, told me that it was benign. So she actually doesn't have cancer. It was just a benign tumor that was growing. They removed it, and they got some good margins on it. So we're hoping that it won't come back at all. But that was just the best news. It was just the best news.
I'm so happy about that, man.
Yeah.
That stuff is always just so tough. We lost our I don't need to go into it. It's gonna make me too emotional on YouTube probably. But yeah, that stuff is tough. It's tough.
Yeah, most stuff. So fantastic news there. But as far as this weekend, I played a lot of Trials. I'm going to actually just make a brief note about Iron Banner here in a second. But I was going to ask you, so have you played Iron Banner yet? And what has been your... you said that you did. So what's been kind of your brief experience with it since it's been out? I guess like a day or a day and a half or so.
So I know that, oh man, the complaints about the SMG are running wild right now. I posted a YouTube video yesterday about all the new Iron Banner roles, and we're going to talk about those in a second, but all the comments on the video were, ban Immortal out of this playlist. Like, everybody is sick of it, and honestly, like, it is not bothering me that much at all. Like, no matter what, if a primary weapon is strong, special weapons are still an insta-kill, and special weapons are all over the place in this game. I'm not saying, things don't need to be looked at. I'm just saying I have ways around it. It's not really bothering me that much. And I had fun playing with a team. It was, it's a different experience now that Iron Banner is skill-based matchmaking, and we were playing I played solo at first when it first dropped, and had some really good games. I had some great time. I was constantly playing against teams of 4, teams of 2, with the way the matchmaking is set up right now. There's no more solo playlists, there were lots of teams. That doesn't bother me too much as long as I'm still having fun and performing fine, and nothing felt super crazy annoying to me or anything. I just played against some good teams, and then whenever I played sixes, though, that's when it got sweaty. It was like, okay, we're gonna pit you against another team of 6, and you're gonna have to go hard. This is where you're gonna get teabagged to death every time you die. You will die a second death to a teabag, and that's just the way it was. But it was fine. We had some close games where we barely won, and then that same team played us again and they beat us, and had that friendly back and forth. I say friendly. I could feel the hate coming off of them, but I had a good time. And what I really like is that the focusing system is cheaper now. 25 legendary shards. I'm running broke, so this is really nice. I got to get the trial stuff and the Iron Banner stuff, so I really like the focusing system, and it feels very rewarding to do that. I'm excited to talk about one of the future things of Iron Banner in that Crucible blog post I'm excited about, because you do still have to play a certain subclass to get the challenges done, but one of them is strand, and so I'm happy. Like, that's all I care about. Just let me have the fun new stuff, and they are, so I'm having fun.
Gotcha. Well, you said the SMGs in Trials, and I consistently heard that. I mean, you're a fusion rifle main, right?
Yeah.
I consistently heard, not just in Trials, but also in Iron Banner, I consistently heard that, fusion rifles are like a natural, counter to that SMG gameplay.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes, it is very good against it, and also positioning and like using a shotgun, just normal stuff is good. I think people get freaked out whenever they hear that, 720 RPM going off again, times 6 on the other team. It can be a little frightening. But even I ran around for a little bit because I've been really curious about this. We talked about this on our last episode, but running the strand damage resistance from Woven Mail plus a glaive shield, I just tried it out for a little bit because I was like, how's this going to fare against all this stuff? And it fared pretty well. I was back. It basically puts the glaive back in its original state where you can watch someone attempt to melee you and SMG you for like a good 5 seconds, and like, okay, I've had enough. Melee, you're dead. Okay. and so you got to play it right and build up to it, but it's pretty hilarious. And so I'm still having fun. I'm damage stacking, and everybody, is just like, what's I'm trying to use their SMGs, and that's it. So it's not a bad deal for me.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I will say that I took a couple clips from Trials talking about Strand briefly. Took a couple clips from Trials, and I don't know, Strand and people kind of like swinging around. I didn't see it represented too heavily in Trials in my games, but it is really funny when people are like swinging around. Like Strand Spider-Man, like crossing door frames. I don't know. I just took.
Did you see my clip today?
Sure. I didn't see it. But it is like super whimsical, and I laughed out loud several times just kind of watching people swing from like room to room, and like I don't know. It was pretty funny. So.
That's my thing. So that's why I want to play Strand, because it brings out the ridiculousness, and it's why I'm excited about Ignition, because it's all about movement. That second week of Iron Banner where we're going to be pushing in hard. So this week you kind of got to make that flow happen with the control being the mode. But I did a move where I swung around B platform on what's the name of that map? It's one of the super popular ones that's out right now. But I literally like was blocked from their view, and I was like, I'll go around the outside of the map.
Oh no, I did see that. That
full like
clean.
360 around it, strand melee.
Part of it, you went out of bounds on part of it, right, or something. Yeah,
it was like you're out of bounds.
Yeah, I did. Oh, that's right. At Beat 'em on Distant Shore. That was a cool clip.
Distant Shore.
Yeah,
yes,
that was a cool clip. Yeah, yeah.
I love stuff like that's the stuff. And that was when I was playing solo, and I'm literally sitting here playing solo, laughing out loud to myself, playing the Crucible again, and that's what I love to see.
Yeah. It's nice. It's nice. We've said it before that Strand dropped relatively balanced in the Crucible versus the other 3.0s, right? And I don't know. It's cool that it, again, added an additional dimension to it, that people are just being silly, being fun, but it's also effective if you end up kind of building into it, but also just practice, you know?
Yeah.
So it's cool. This is a question that I had for you because I haven't actually touched Iron Banner yet. The map rotation weighting, is it similar to the wider Crucible, or do you feel like it got left behind and maybe it's similar weighting? Because I've seen complaints, or it's kind of like a
pretty good,
like a pain point.
It's
pretty good. Okay.
I think I got disjunction twice, so that's never feels good. But you know, it wasn't high, and I played a full when I played solo, it was like 6 or 7 games solo before I joined my 6-man team, and all those games were just fun, like not huge maps. I felt good. I'd never played the same map twice. It just felt really clean. So all the good thing. And when I joined that team, they were like, yeah, we've played like 6 games and it's been a different map every time. It's been great. And I was like, cool. So everybody seemed to be having a good time. And I feel like there was one map that came up that I was like, this isn't in the normal rotation, but it wasn't. It just came up once and it wasn't anything crazy. So it felt fine. You know,
okay.
I still like the normal playlist better, I think, with the way they've weighted everything, but it was still good.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. That's good feedback for sure. And I look forward to jumping into Iron Banner probably tomorrow for the first time and seeing how things feel for myself, both solo and as part of a fire team. So, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, as far as like, you know, trials and in my experience, because you've kind of listed a little bit of your experience, man, fire team matchmaking is just a dub. It's just a dub. Pretty
Huge
consistently
dub.
Across the board. That's what I've heard from, you know, my community and the wider community. And then while the Immortal was pretty much a dub as well, I would say, it generally is a bit more of a contentious subject. You know, like you said, in trials in particular, you know, I felt like my maybe like lower skill or mid skill players felt like later into the weekend, especially in the flawless pool, was maybe a bit oppressive, but nonetheless, I still agree with how it dropped, because PvP really did need like that lightning, you know, to put it back into a place where we can, you know, happily no grass it again, right? It's no more no life, it's no grass.
No grass.
So obviously the statement, you know, is dependent upon them addressing the out of band nature of maybe like 750 RPM SMGs, along with the proposed changes, you know, coming to Ikelos and Terabyte. But nonetheless, you know, there's like, you know, definitely a sweet spot with it where I felt like, man, like Trials was just amazing this week, and the numbers support that versus, I guess, the Trials revamp weekend. It was something, maybe, I think that was the only time where Trials numbers maybe were higher. Don't quote me on it.
Okay. I didn't look at the numbers this weekend, but that's cool to hear.
Yeah, people have been putting out statistics for the last couple of days about it. So either way, I think we can all agree that it was a dub of a weekend where we have Fireteam matchmaking and Trials, no more freelance, you know, to be such a straightforward, I guess, detriment to the threes playlist, and also just a really strong, cool, and desirable and fun. That's something that I can completely, you know, stand by and double down on. Feel folks are just having fun with that weapon. You know, just a brand new weapon that is very desirable. So it was a fun time for sure.
They got a lot of PvE players in there too. There were people who wanted like a target lock roll just for PvE purposes, or a threadling roll where you could I'm bouncing off the name of the perk right now, but it's a strand weapon, and so hatchling. There we go.
Yep.
So it has all of the benefits of being a strand weapon with those specific strand perks, and PvE players are like, oh, I want one of those.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I was definitely looking for it as well. And I've spoken about last time with Round Robin how I was trying to kind of build around the hatchling perk on that when I eventually crafted, which I'm still at 4 out of 5. But
you're close, man.
I am close. You can get it. It's true. Last thing I'll say, I guess, about the Immortal, because we've been talking about that. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in more detail. tale is that, there's a growing number of folks, trying to single out rangefinder as far as, something that needs to either come off of SMGs or maybe something that needs to get a more global change. And I don't necessarily think that those folks fully appreciate the ramifications of doing so and how that's going to negatively affect their favorite guns elsewhere, particularly hand cannon enthusiasts, and how rangefinder allows hand cannons to still kind of be viable even in the last two metas that we've been in. The last meta being obviously like a long range pulse rifle meta, and strictly not a hand cannon meta for sure. And this one where it's SMGs. So I'd much rather see levers like stability and zoom tune first on SMGs before we make global changes to rangefinder, which I feel like is still in a good spot. It's just maybe we need to be a little bit more mindful about what we end up putting it on. Maybe I'm not sure. It's a tough one. I've
been thinking about that a lot recently too, because of the way with it, and you'll see it in a little bit. For those who don't know, we will go through these weapons and spec out specifically what we think we should run for them and kind of talk through the different perks and the stats and where they lie in the sandbox. But given that everyone is speccing all into range and that stability pretty much doesn't matter once you hit that range, is like, what, could there be some balance there where stability maybe matters a little bit, maybe? So
I just feel like there are definitely like levers to turn and to tune before we actually end up talking about rangefinder. And that stability is just such a great point, because nobody cares, even on controller. Nobody cares about it on that 750 RPM Immortal. So, and going back, I guess, to Fireteam Matchmaking, the last thing I'll say about it in this context, it's a win because, rewarding gameplay loop for solos and duos and PvP will always be a win, while keeping it as much as the player population in one playlist, is also a huge benefit to PvP.
True.
That high pop is far and away the most important part of a healthy, diverse, and rewarding PvP, gameplay experience for everybody, right? So I'll almost always champion those changes, geared towards that goal,
I'm curious about that, for what it was like for you this weekend, because everybody's in the same playlist, but it's split up into where solos are matching solos more, duos are matching duos. Duos became the popular, easy thing to run. I didn't necessarily find that to be the case for myself. I'd rather have somebody competent running with me or just run solo most of the time, but I know that was a popular thing to do. So I'm curious, how did you run this weekend? And if you ran solo versus threes or duos, like, what was more challenging? What did you find your games to be like?
It's interesting. Solo felt like the freelance experience. For me, solo felt like the freelance experience. Okay. And that's generally a good thing for me. Like, I like the solo experience. I'm more inclined to do threes simply because, I'm a content creator and I just do a lot of like Trials help, right? Whenever I do play Trials, which is fairly rare these days, but I mean, it's javelin, it's a high pop, it's a desirable weapon. You're definitely going to see me in there, and my community definitely appreciates me, trying to help out as much as possible. So I enjoyed it. So I majority played threes. Now, with regards to twos, I would definitely just say the higher on the skill ladder your duo is, the easier it is. I'm not gonna lie, I got bored after like 2 games myself. I've said it before a million times. I don't enjoy, quote unquote pub stomping. It just gets boring for me, and I could care less about like stats. That's not a measure, in my mind of where I see skill at, or the description of where skill is at for an individual player. So I got bored after 2 games, and we just started doing help, and I didn't ever go back. And that's not to say that everybody's experience, or that should be the generalization for how duos are. It's just where I was at, from where I'm sitting. That was my experience. And I've heard a lot of people had a lot of fun in duos, however that is described for them, however they see that. So that was kind of my experience, solo 2 and 3. I really enjoyed the threes, but it really does still. I mean, there's no difference, I guess, between threes now and I will say, not having the freelance playlist out definitely helped, I would imagine. But how much did it really help when there's a desirable weapon and the population is so thick, Yeah. Because as a 3, I don't think I ever matched anything but 3s.
Me neither. Yeah.
You know,
which is good.
Which is good. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Yeah, definitely. And I played like 250 games, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, when the population isn't as thick, am I still going to have a rewarding experience? Because I would definitely say over the weekend I had a rewarding experience with regards to match quality, with regards to the competitiveness between teams, to how much I had to work, you know, each game, which I appreciate. I like to be challenged. It was fun. It was fun, but it just goes back to what we said before with regards to population, just keeping it thick all the time, as much as possible.
Did we just get Anubis in chat?
Yeah, we a little bit, keeping it thick. But see, now you get me.
I know. I'm sorry. We'll reel it back in. I'm sorry, guys. We got a lot to talk about today, and I'm goofing off.
Of course. No, you good. I'm sure they love it too. So, yeah. Pop. Desirable weapon. Lightning in a bottle, most definitely, with the Immortal. All of that stuff, along with Fireteam Matchmaking, just is a dub. But just going back to it, just for solos and duos, but solos in particular, I think that they got the biggest dub of the weekend, because even when even when the pop isn't high, you know, even when it's just mid, you know, I think that they're still going to benefit greatly from the changes, and we needed that. And we can talk about, you know, 3s and kind of maintaining a high population to ensure match integrity and connection quality and stuff like that for 3s, you know, as we kind of continue to move down the line. But I think that's going to be more of a reward thing, as far as like what reward is available, and kind of keeping each Trials weapon that drops, you know, something that you know folks want for one reason or another, and get excited about. And that's what I love about the Immortal. So, I guess the only other things that I had noted for this weekend is, man, like, people got to keep in mind that 120 hand cannons still doing it. You know, like 120 hand cannons is slept on. I feel like, especially this weekend against SMGs, against this Immortal, because of the high impact damage benefiting from that team shot, but also the range and the peak shot playstyle that does well to counter automatic weapons like SMGs. So I just want to continue to kind of double down on that and ensure that folks know that 120 hand cannons are in a very, very good spot, and they have been for a while. I think that they've been the best archetype, the most competitive archetype hand cannon. I'm sorry, not archetype, subfamily of hand cannon during this, for the last like close to a year, you know, and definitely during the pulse rifle meta for sure. So, man, that igneous hammer is still a beast. And although like precision and aggressive shotguns are generally better frames, Reese Walker was actually putting in work. But I also have like a hipfire iron reach, like max range roll with corkscrew, which I prefer actually. I've talked about before. I think smoothbore and maybe corkscrew are maybe the best general barrels for shotguns right now. Double down with some freehand grip, and kind of alluding to, you know, I'm obviously alluding to the fact that certain high quality lightweights are consistent, but yeah, especially when considering a build or a play style, you know, don't give up on lightweights. Precisions and aggressives are generally, you know, better in the subfamily, but you've got something well rolled on a lightweight, something that matches the play style or maybe your build, it could definitely put in work. And I guess that's the last thing I'll say about that as well is Amcar spines, people.
Ooh,
woo-wee. I'm telling you. I hopped over to my Dawnblade, which I love playing my Dawnblade, the Icarus dash, the zoom, the movement is just so clean. The Phoenix dive that just got, you know, buffed a little bit is just so awesome, you know, just Icarus dashing behind cover and immediately getting, you know, health shields off of a Phoenix dive to recover from, you know, an engagement.
Oh, that's good.
It's just, you know, super dope. But Amcar spines is just like the perfect counter to barricades and rifts, to lock down reses and things along that sort. I guess what I want to say, and then we'll keep it moving on, is Amcar spines have a skill gap to them. They have a skill gap to them. While I think that they shouldn't be spammable, and maybe there should be like reduced energy that you get back, like energy regen from anything that isn't a grenade hit. I still think if you hit somebody with a grenade, you should still get the same amount of energy that you get back now with the spines, but maybe not so much when you hit somebody with like a proximity knife or something like that. So I think that maybe that could be, you know, tuned to ensure that it's not spammable, like it maybe is if somebody decides that they want to, like, I don't use a proximity knife, so I just get it back, only if I end up like throwing it correctly and getting a tag on 1 or 2 people. And keep in mind, you end up getting a tag on 2 people. That's when you get it back, with the proper build. So, but either way, I just think that it's fantastic. It's the perfect counter to barricades and rifts, and I think that that is the big reason why it should remain, the way that it is. It just shouldn't be, like too spammable based off of other solar damage. So yeah, I had a good time. I
feel like I didn't see too many of those being played. I feel like I saw lots of healing nades still. Lots of healing nades, barricades, and lots of strand, which is encouraging to see, honestly. But you know what I didn't see much of, which I'm curious if you saw, is much invis play, because it's still super strong, but I hardly saw anyone running invis, I felt like.
I did see like a few people running it for sure, but you're right. I think its usage numbers are in a good spot, and I'll say that about arm correspondence as well. And the reason you say you didn't see, I didn't see it very often either. So you're gonna see those teams out there. Usage does play into whether it should be looked at, people. Like I'm not saying it should define the whole story, but if you don't see it very often, then something there's a deeper story there. Especially if people are saying that they're quote unquote OP, right? Or that or like Invis was OP. You saw it everywhere. We could all agree on that, and that's why it got changed. It got addressed, right? But yeah, I feel like the people that are using it now are using it a little bit more intentionally, a little bit more thoughtfully, build crafting into it, or they just really enjoy it. And I feel like that's the way that most things, most mechanics in the game should go. Outside of what is currently spicy, which is fine too, as long as those are few and far between as well.
Oh, speaking of, that's probably why no one was running Invis. Everyone was running double firebolt grenades. Of course.
Yeah, that's true.
We didn't even talk about that, but yeah, that's a thing right now. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that.
It only was a problem for me maybe 1 or 2 games. I feel like running my fusion was doing really good countering SMGs and even firebolts. I feel like I was able to kind of kill them before their, like, maybe the first firebolt would connect and I would start burning, but then they'd be dead and the burn can't kill you, so I win. But
y'all hear he just flexed on y'all real quick. He said, I win. Sorry about that. You can tell Lego's still a little spicy about it.
You asked if it was a good counter, and I was looking at my KD for the week because I don't usually keep track of it, but it's nice to kind of see your improvement over the seasons. I normally average around actual KD of 1.7, 1.8, something like that per season, and this weekend it was 2.24 for me. And so that was like, it was cool to see that improvement. Like, okay, you're still definitely like doing well within the meta. It's not like anything crazy, but it's you're doing good competing against some stuff that people would call broken, like the SMG or the firebolt grenades. So it's good to see that it's working good against it.
Same, and that's why I ended up gravitating. I tried a couple different builds, and that's why I ended up kind of gravitating back to that build that I mentioned, which was my 120, my Igneous Hammer, my Reese Walker, and the Trippies. And to mention as well, you talk about the heal nades and things along that sort. Heal nades and overshield barricades are still a thing, and Amkar Spine also does a great job of kind of countering those things. So they exist, for a reason. Oh, that's what I was going to mention too. Like people on Twitter, sometimes they're just like, man, like, how do I counter, these barricades if they end up putting them up like in front of like a doorway or something like that? And people think about the actual perks behind Amkar Spine. Think about the concept behind like a trip mine. It's a trap. It's a trap.
Yeah, that's good.
The skill gap behind Amkar Spines is about setting it up ahead of time as a trap, And so, somebody puts up a barricade and, if there's room, you can end up angling that throw to get some damage on them behind it, and they're burning, so maybe they can't pick up that res, which is undoubtedly the reason why they put up that barricade right there at that doorway. But the majority of the time, like, I've played with them enough that I know the angles. I know what what walls and surfaces I'm going to throw it off of, where it's less likely to angle at a weird way, and also where it's more likely to get actual foot traffic as well, and also to push people off of certain angles that I don't want them to be on. Maybe it's a sniper spot that's at rocket that I don't have a clean shot on, but they've got a crack that they can snipe me through. Man, I got sniped through some mean spots. I got sniped from a spot on a stairway. I'm sorry, on the stairs at helipad that I just didn't even know was accessible. I was up against a wall. But my point is, throwing nades at those spots right there just denies access until that nade goes off. So that I can actually push people towards a place that is more advantageous for me to engage in with my hand cannon and shotgun versus them just holding me down with the sniper from a spot that is very little or very very inaccessible to me in most spots.
Yeah, well, you talk about using these defensively, but I saw you on Twitter using them aggressively with that blade barrage straight into the trip mine throw.
Clip.
Oh my god,
that was a clean clip.
Yes, y'all gotta go check that out.
That was a cool one, and what maybe people don't realize about I said it before, like it was just I'll just leave it at that. Go check out the clip. There's a bunch of nuance to that clip about the regen. We could talk about, but of course we got like a whole show to do. If you want to hit me up about that, then just hit me on Twitter and we could talk about it. But it was a cool clip, a lot of nuance behind it, and it just worked out well. So, and we won the game. It was a 4-4, and I got back that game. So got to let them know.
Yeah. Well, before we get to the big Crucible blog post, I got 2 quick correction side notes things here to run through. One, we talked about, I'm not sure if we mentioned the target lock bug, but I know we have in past episodes where there's this bug where you're shooting target lock and you're shooting with a target lock gun and randomly it will just spike into a higher damage percentage than it should. They fixed that this season, or with the last patch that they did, to where it doesn't do it on Lodbrok anymore, and it's not doing it on Immortal as far as we can tell from all the Destiny Massive Breakdown scientists in there. Thank you, Mossy and Rock DC. And then, but it is apparently happening on Rufus, the raid auto rifle that has it, which is crazy. So if you have that, more power to you. You may be doing spikes of damage every once in a while with target lock.
and you wrote that in the notes, Rufus, and I didn't remember that was the name from the auto rifle. Did you see? Did you think that? Oh, you got me. You definitely got me. I was like, Rufus. Like, who is Rufus? And why would we name a gun Rufus? I'm sorry. Is Rufus part of the Destiny lore? Like, who is Rufus?
Those guns are weird.
Immediately.
It looks like a Rufus. So, and then a second thing is tracer rockets, which we talked about last time with the hand cannon. We were talking about it a lot, which I personally, part of my week, have been loving the Neomuna round robin hand cannon with the tracer rockets because I've crafted golden tricorn on it. Easy 2 taps, no matter the resil, because that tracer rocket, once I get that first kill, I took 3 shots to get it. 4th shot shoots out a rocket. So here's how it works, and here's how we were wrong on the last episode. We were thinking that it was like based on either damage or the number of shots you took, and it is based on the number of shots you take, but it's per magazine. And it's different for every weapon, and the rocket does different damage depending on what weapon you're using. So we're not going into that in detail this week with all the different weapons, but I just wanted to say that is how it works. We kind of explained it wrong because it was like the day the DL, it was the week the DLC dropped. We know what we're talking about. But it works based off of magazine, and so if you have a higher magazine, it takes more shots, which makes me really wish drop mag existed and was on this, because then we could manipulate it, but we can't. So it's the 4th shot on the base hand cannon, and so you get a 3 tap, 1, 2, 3, golden tricorn's active, your next shot on the next opponent, and it's like a long delay. I waited like at least 5 seconds because I was on 2 seconds of the timer left on golden tricorn. The first shot, boom, trace rocket comes out, does extra damage on top of 92 to the head. 2 92 to the head shots, trace rocket comes in, no matter their resil, they're dead with a 2 tap. It feels great.
So then the question I'm going to ask, and I'm sure other people are probably wondering if they heard the last episode, can we still make that 1 tap? When I eventually craft it, can we still make that 1 tap happen?
I still believe we can. We got to get in there, and because I haven't tested the trace rocket's damage on a full health target, with stacking all this other stuff. But mathematically, I believe it will still work. and I'm very excited for it. Yes.
Okay. All right.
We can make the one tap happen.
Because I've been priming my folks, man. I've been priming them. It's just like Lego says we can do a one tap, and people ask me every time I stream, "Yo, we doing this one tap today?" And I'm just like, "Look, man, I got 4 out of 5. Just let me get this 5 out of 5, and we're gonna make it happen. All right."
That's how I feel about Iron Banner's back, and we can focus the sidearm Peace Bond, which is the only sidearm of that archetype that currently has Harmony on it. Which Harmony is the perfect perk to stack onto Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves, which activates when you're low on health and you switch to your sidearm.
Yeah.
And it's one of the exotic damage perks that stacks on top of empowering buffs, like Well or anything like that, or Radiant. And so you can stack Harmony, Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves, and an empowering buff to essentially get a one-shot off of the burst sidearm, which but here's the deal, they changed surprise attack, which is what I was wanting to also stack it to make it very fluid. That doesn't exist anymore, so I'll have to figure out a different way, but I still think that's possible, and so I'm gonna get into that soon as well. So we'll have a one-shot hand cannon, one-shot sidearm. Let's go.
Oh, you can't run them together though. They're both kinetic, right? Peace Bond is kinetic.
Yeah, no, you can't run them together.
But all right. We can make it work.
Cool options here.
Yeah.
I do want to real quick add on to the one-shot hand cannon thing. I think I figured out how to do it solo. You don't even need someone else running well.
No, save that.
Okay, I'll save it for
these are
the
teasers, baby.
These are teasers.
Yeah, all right,
we got more to go. Okay, let's get to this Crucible blog post because there's a ton here. So what we're going to be talking about today is the blog post goes over playlists and offerings for the Crucible, matchmaking, the competitive division, Iron Banner and Trials of Osiris, and new and returning game modes. And this is talking about things coming the middle of this season, things coming next season, and even one thing coming in season 22.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm going to kind of let you take it from here to just kind of like go off the bat. First thing, reading this blog post with the playlists and offerings, we could jump straight into the game modes, the map rotations, the first thing to talk about. Did you have anything to say about that before we jump into actual playlist changes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just really nice to see the faucet finally like turning on a bit, you know? And I guess another thing that I saw like briefly was that the map weighting is nearly spot on, like for what maps they perceive that we want to see a little bit more often in the rotation versus maps that maybe we would like to never see in the rotation. And, you know, kind of having a high, a mid, or like it's going to be, you know, weighted evenly, and then another area where you just rarely see this map come up. It's just really nice. And I was briefly kind of reading through that, and I was just like, oh yeah, this looks almost exactly how I would want the weighting to look for the most part, based on you know, just the quality of the maps themselves, but also you know, how the actual sandbox is looking right now as well, and how it ends up playing in the sandbox. So for example, Endless Veil I think is weighted evenly, and in other metas I would actually want Endless Veil to be weighted highly, but in this meta, you know, right now, I do feel like Endless Veil, for me personally, works best weighted evenly. So I was glad to see that there. It just seems like, yet again, there's quite a bit of intention and thoughtfulness going behind some of these changes. So that was really cool to see. And I guess the last like general thing before we get into playlists is that while some might understandably skip the statistics side of the Crucible post, I see it as almost like essential at this point to the transparency of the changes made to matchmaking, for example, and kind of just ensuring that what we're seeing is what, you know, or what we're feeling is what they're seeing. And so we've been asking Bungie for years for transparency and kind of questioning why they change things the way that they do. I'm just asking, you know, folks to kind of just like, you know, let them cook, you know, because I for one definitely like appreciate it. And, you know, you can skip it, but people like me are definitely not going to skip it or I can just reference back to it to kind of see the underlying statistics guiding the hand of Bungie in some of these changes. So I greatly appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you know, more statistics and more kind of transparency behind some of the changes, some of the oftentimes fundamental changes that they're making to PvP. Yeah,
and I want to echo that and just say, on top of it, this is a thick Crucible posts, and there's a lot in here. Someone even commented in the Discord, the patrons Discord, they were like, y'all could do 3 episodes over this probably. I was like, probably, we're gonna try to keep it narrowed down, but there's even stuff in here that I missed that people had to go back and be like, hey, it actually said this. I was like, oh, okay, this makes a lot more sense now, because at first I was skeptical of a few things, and then once I just kept reading more detail, because there's little sentences that are thrown into the smallest place that change my entire outlook on what their goals are and the direction that they're taking for some of these playlists. So I'm excited after reading all of it.
Yes. I'm going to talk about, you just mentioned something that I'm going to kind of briefly touch on later with the skill-based matchmaking, exactly what you said. So that'll become clear a little bit later on. So mid-season, season 20, like this season, we're going to get some new playlists, right? Clash is going to end up leaving quick play. But as far as the new playlists, it's just a note. Sorry, Clash is leaving quick play. As far as the new playlists, though, we're getting a new connection-based matchmaking rotator, and it's going to end up being called Crucible Relentless Rotator. It's going to have Clash, Rift, and Zone Control. So that's Clash in 1 week, and then the next week it may be Rift, and then the next week Zone Control, and so on and so forth. One thing that stuck out to me is the transparency behind them just saying, yo, at this point we have no plans to change connection-based matchmaking in this rotator. So that was good to just see and hear. Maybe people kind of like glossed over that, but I thought that because a really good example was Trials, right? Yeah, Trials. And them alluding and also just explicitly saying that, hey, eventually we're trying to find a way to get rid of the flawless pool, right? And a lot of us online were just like, yo, can we please talk about whether you're going to try to introduce skill-based matchmaking as a replacement? Like, please, God, no. You know what I'm saying? Like, Trials is one of the, those few areas that, first of all, I don't know if it would actually work. First of all, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work with that card-based matchmaking system that they, currently have in play, or it doesn't seem like they would be compatible. But nonetheless, I think just us being vocal about that push them to be more, to be transparent about it and coming out. And I think the CMs ended up coming out and saying and communicating to us on Twitter that no, there will be no skill-based matchmaking. There are no plans to put skill-based matchmaking in Trials. So all of that to say is I just appreciate them being clear and transparent about things that were previously or currently are pain points, and that just gives me a lot of faith going forward and just eases some of my anxiety about some of the playlists that operate in a way that I love. So let me see. Another note was make sure that there's always conventional yes. So new this new playlist, Crucible Relentless Rotator, is making sure that there's always a conventional team-based Destiny PvP available, mode available to play when Iron Banner is active, which is really, really nice for folks who want to continue to interact with a connection-based matchmaking playlist, even when Iron Banner is around, because obviously Iron Banner is skill-based matchmaking. So that just goes back to kind of like the thoughtfulness on what's going to replace what, and ensuring that folks that want to engage in a particular style or type of playlist are going to be able to do that 24/7, because there's always something available for them, right? The old Crucible rotator is going to be replaced by Crucible Party Rotator. That's going to be separate from the Crucible Relentless Rotator. So we said Crucible Relentless Rotator is going to be connection-based matchmaking rotator. That's going to be available for Clash, Rift, and Zone Control. And you're also going to have a Crucible Party Rotator that's going to have your Mayhem, your Scorched, and your Momentum Control. So it's just nice to see. Yeah, it's just nice to see that the Crucible Party Rotator, because folks I know that love those playlists pretty much like they stay in them the entire week, especially when it comes to like momentum control. My buddy Cody, like literally, I don't think that dude goes outside. Definitely don't touch grass for like a week, whenever momentum control is out. So shout out to Clan Horizon, by the way, of course, and Cody. But those folks love it. And I've got some folks that really, really enjoy Team Scorched and the like. So, what stuck out to me as well, again, was the intention behind what's available at any given time for, folks, or catering towards those playlists to ensure that there's like the widest Crucible population. I guess what I mean by that is that the folks who want to play a party mode generally aren't going to be looking to play a conventional mode. So those playlists aren't really eating off of each other, right?
That makes sense, yeah.
It's the same for Trials, which is a connection-based, card-based system replacing whenever it appears, it's going to replace the Crucible Relentless rotator. So it's another connection-based matchmaking playlist, but it isn't the party playlist. And so if you're trying to play Scorched, or something kind of like silly like that, right? You're generally not looking to play Trials, right? Like those, again, they don't eat off of each other really. So I just saw a lot of thoughtfulness and a lot of intention about, what replaces what when something else is available, trying to ensure that we keep those populations in those playlists as thick. This is going to become a thing, as thick as possible, right? Without eating off of each other. And so that's just really, really nice. And I guess the last couple things, I guess, I had about the playlists is that we're getting that 3v3 countdown and Crucible Labs. A lot of people have been asking for countdown back, so we're getting that in spades, it looks like.
Yeah.
So congrats on picking that back up. I think I mentioned it later on in the notes, but I'll go ahead and mention it here. One map that always played, I feel like, pretty interestingly with Countdown was Emperor's Respite. So if we ever end up getting that map back, I'd just love to play, Emperor's Respite Countdown again. There's a lot of nostalgia for that map for me for Countdown. So that'd be pretty cool. And then,
I'm surprised it didn't come back with this, but I guess the reason maps went away is because the whole new engine they had to rebuild stuff for. It's like that one was made for Countdown. It feels like when I think Countdown, I think that map.
Between that map and Midtown. But I really do think that map for sure. I completely agree with you. Now I could probably guess why it didn't come back. I mean, they probably want whatever map they bring back to be something that's viable for all modes, hopefully, ideally, to kind of just like, eat as much as you can off of the work of our great devs. But
it's a great Rumble map.
It's a solid Rumble map, but my God, it plays poorly in Control.
Yeah.
And considering that's the mode that we play the most of, so I'm not surprised, but I would love to see it come back for sure. A lot of nostalgia.
You say it's the mode we play the most. I'm really curious what's going to happen with these new rotators, how much of the population is going to shift to the CBMM rotator, the Crucible Relentless rotator, because I find myself, even now, in Rift a lot of times testing weapons because if I'm trying to do like damage stacking stuff, it is never going to happen in an SBMM playlist. There's just too many people playing too smart. But now that we have this mode, I just want to echo
that you don't want to play people at your skill level? Lego?
I'm saying that I don't want to if I'm using silly loadouts. I don't want to play people because they are not using silly loadouts.
You're right about that.
But I do want to echo what you said about keeping those two playlists where they don't intersect the party rotator versus the relentless rotator. Like they're two different groups of people, and I appreciate that because I basically never want to go into Mayhem Scorch.
Same.
Or I do like momentum control, but for the most part, if I'm testing weapons and seeing how they work, I'm not going to play in those playlists. But I also sometimes, if I want to use something new and don't want to play an SBMM playlist. And so the relentless rotator is going to be perfect because no matter what, the sandbox isn't changed and the weapon operates the same as if it was being played in Control or Trials or anything else. So I can kind of do a basic test there, and then I can go to normal normal Control, test the SBMM, like 6-player, like how does it feel? And then I can go into Rumble, and then I can go into Trials, like kind of do this step ladder of, okay, how does it feel in each of these modes? But to just get a basic, like, can I even use it in the relentless rotator is going to be so nice. And not even thinking it for me as a content creator, but thinking of me as someone who likes trying out all the guns the game has to offer. I don't want to do it in that crazy environment. So
it's a detriment. I mean, you're right. It's a detriment in that environment for the most part, and then you know, you're not the only one that's echoed that, of course. Now, one thing that I actually just thought of right now is dynamic fireteam matchmaking or dynamic skill matchmaking going to be available when this comes out? Have we heard anything more about that? Because, you know, now that we're getting a couple more playlists, I mean, I think it's going to be a net positive on the playlists that are going to be available at any point in time in PvP, if I'm seeing this correctly. That being the case, we're going to need something to kind of adjust the quote unquote loose skill-based matchmaking dependent upon how large or small the population is at any point in time. So have we heard anything about that?
They didn't. So that was the one thing when I was done with the article, I was like, did they say anything about dynamic skill matchmaking? And they didn't.
Yeah.
I just did a search for it. There's nothing about it. They are adjusting the way that matchmaking works for SBMM and for Fireteam matchmaking. They talk about it here, which we'll go through in the next part, which I guess we can go ahead and talk about.
Yeah,
that's
this
kind
is
of the
great
next
transition.
section.
Yep.
Yeah. So no mention of dynamic skill matchmaking, which I am hopeful for that we see some soon. But they did mention Fireteam matchmaking changes and SBMM. For Fireteam matchmaking changes, the one thing, the best example that they gave for, I'm not going to read exactly the changes they're making because it was hard for me to understand, but the example that they gave was very easy to understand. So basically what they're working towards is if you are in a 6-person fire team with a weighted average skill of 150, skill is being determined by their system of skill, not something we see in game. So if they say your weighted average skill is 150, the system may prefer a 4-person fire team paired with a duo with a weighted average skill of 200, as opposed to right now waiting for another 6-person fire team with a skill of 400. So it's changing to where it doesn't have to match you 6 versus 6 every time, that it might be a little more lenient towards letting you match with a 4-person fire team and a duo. So this should improve both match quality and matchmaking times. It's not sitting there forever waiting to match you with the exact skill you need with another 6-person fire team. It can be like, okay, this 4-player and this duo can match you instead, and it is about the same amount of skill. So gotcha. That's cool. It's less matchmaking time, doesn't have to be super exact. I think that's fine. And then the second thing is SBMM. I'm just going to quote here what they're leaning towards. They want connection filters modified so that latency windows will be expanded at the slowest rate. So basically, the way I interpret this is connection is most important. It's going to find worse connections at a slower rate, and instead skill windows will start tighter but expand more quickly as needed. So connections aren't the first thing to go, the skill is the first thing to go. It's going to start you in that narrow skill and then expand more quickly rather than connection quality expanding quickly, which is fantastic, and I think might even be the definition, I could be wrong here, of the dynamic skill matchmaking that they were talking about. Maybe this is it, they just didn't name it that, but that's how I kind of read it. So excellent change in my opinion.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I was, I read that part, and then I read that in our notes, of course, and I was actually hoping that you would, you explained that really, really well, because I was kind of confused by that. Yeah, okay.
I hope I'm right about explaining it that way, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's saying.
Yeah, that sounds like a logical understanding of it, and honestly, it's just really great to see them prioritizing connection quality first and foremost in non-competitive playlists in particular. I mean, it should be, in my opinion, still be, heavily weighted first in all playlists, but specifically non-competitive playlists. This is the most important factor for me with competitive games being the a second basically.
Right. Yeah, and it's cool too that, or not cool, but like it's important to note that if you're expecting to jump into quick play and it be like way more lenient, it's not going to just quickly place you in whatever. It's still going to be SBMM, and it's actually going to be tighter SBMM, start you tighter. It's just going to loosen faster. So if you get this great match, cool. If it doesn't get it right away, it's going to expand really quickly, and I like that change.
Got you. Yeah, and something else that I saw as well, I guess this is kind of a note before we end up getting into competitive, is something that I've seen and suspected. I mean, is that they said that connections are dynamic throughout the match, so their quality can sometimes degrade mid-game for a variety of reasons. And I just thought that was kind of just like an interesting note, that connection quality can sometimes shift during a match. Now, one thing I will say is I've definitely noticed this, but most times it's for the better now. I can definitely say that has not always been the case. Sometimes in the past, or quite frequently in the past, mid-game connections would just start getting wonky, like super wonky. And I just haven't seen that as often these days, where like mid game it's like that. And so it does seem that even that system, very nuanced system in the background, is being improved upon. So I appreciate it. But that was cool to see, and definitely something that I noted.
Agreed. Well, competitive. Let's get into it. This is the one that like I read through it and I thought to myself, that's cool, but probably not for me. And then I talked with a bunch of people and I came back and looked at it and said, wow, I really want to play this now. And so this is the one part of the whole thing. If you didn't read it all the way through, you might want to read it again, and I'll kind of talk to that. I'll let you take it first, Tony, and just kind of your thoughts on what they're changing and your thoughts on it, and then I'll kind of give my bit afterwards.
Gotcha. Yeah, so mid-season, this season, season 20, right? We're getting some competitive changes, folks. Some competitive changes. And I definitely echo what Lego said. I would read it twice. If you're truly interested in what's going on with comp, if that's a playlist that you enjoy, that you spend a lot of time in, or that you would like to spend a lot of time in, I would read it a couple times because, we're going to give you as much details as we can here to kind of summarize what's going on. So we're getting a new emblem, right? We've been asking for this, folks, right?
Yeah.
We're getting some rewards. We're getting a new emblem if you are Ascendant 3 or higher, right? So they're adding a new Ascendant emblem and retiring the previous one each season. And I actually briefly caught up with John Zellman on Twitter, who did an incredible job on the season 20 Ascendant emblem. And he told us that the one for next season is actually supposed to be even better. And I'm super excited. Yeah, even better. And I'm super, super excited. Definitely ensure that I'm grinding each season to flex that clean Zellman aesthetic. Briefly just wanted to say that Zellman also spoke on Twitter as well in that tweet about his process for making the season 20 emblem. And just kind of a note, I found that really fascinating. So definitely give it a read if you have a chance. Also, a shout out to Ben Platnick at Bungie for the new reactive transmat that we're getting.
Yes.
So that's an additional reward, and that's dope. So the description is that this new reactive transmat evolves and changes as you go up or down in the ranks of competitive division. So it's the first ever transmat earned directly through gameplay. It's a free reward coming to anybody who places silver 3 or higher in competitive vision. All you need to do is slot it once and just watch it change and evolve. And you just show off your rank on the activity intro screen as well. So it's that's just super cool. I don't know.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm totally on board with this now, and even more so after at the end here, I'll probably come back to this because at first the rank doesn't mean too much to me, but just if you haven't seen the effect, like when you transmat and it shows your rank, and that just is such a cool feature. The fact that it's so unique and dynamic and it's free, you can go earn it in game as opposed to being in Eververse is so cool. Though my one gripe here, I guess we should they talk about it later, so I don't know if I should mention it now, but there's changes coming to the rewards. They're just changing out one thing. I'm just going to go ahead and mention it because we're talking about the rewards here, and there's only one other reward thing, and that's they're changing out Rose will be unobtainable in season 21, and they're bringing in a sniper rifle as the new weapon. Very cool to see that, but also that's only basically 3 rewards here. Those are the only 3 things: is the transmat, the emblem for Ascendant 3, and the weapon that everyone will be able to get for just playing. And for me, that is the one part of everything that I've read so far that I'm a little bummed about, specifically the emblem part. It's not that I need a ton of weapons or anything like that. I know some people feel that way. I'm not one of those people. I think it should be cosmetic. That's great. But I am a little bummed that it's only for Ascendant 3, and I'm not going to be rewarded or be able to really show off my rank in any sort of like graphical form other than Ascendant 3. Like, you have to make it that high. And the reason I bring that up is because it can feel a little defeating to work so hard to get almost to Ascendant 3 and not be able to make it and not have anything to show for it. Like, I wish there were emblems or some sort of cosmetic thing every step of the way. They are giving us a tracker, a stat tracker for your rank that you can show off on an emblem, but I just wish there was a little tiny bit something more. This is really great, really cool stuff, the stuff that is here. I just wish there was something along the way so the grind didn't feel so... It feels kind of like, not Luna's, because that one was a little bit easier to get, but Not Forgotten. Like, you had to get there, and if you didn't get to the very top, well, sucks to suck, you know? And that's kind of it. I want to give a little bit of hope to those who are grinding through the ranks who maybe Ascendant 3 isn't a target that they can achieve, but maybe the one below it is. So that's my one kind of thing with the rewards there.
Okay. Yeah. And, for me, and that's perspective I hadn't even thought of. I mean, this obviously just came out today, so I appreciate you kind of like giving that different perspective. I completely agree that the one thing here that was disappointing, really just in this whole document, I think it was a pretty much like a huge dub. This document was the rewards. Yeah, for competitive. Like, where is potentially some Artifice armor? Where's potentially some Artifice armor? There's no PvP source for Artifice armor, in game or otherwise.
Dude, can you imagine how many people would play if they had like, even if it wasn't a rank goal, because that would be a little too much. You don't want to give advantages for it, but if it was just play 3 games, get the sniper or Artifice armor, there's a small chance of getting an Artifice armor drop. Dude, PvP players, that would get me in there every week. I'd be there every week.
That's what I'm saying. And my thing is, I was thinking a random drop, just in general for armor. So if you're not going to make Rose, for example, because that's a potential, make Rose like a random drop, a low rate, but a random drop, then make Artifice armor. And then we're talking about Artifice armor that may or may not have high stats on it too. So then that could be an additional thing where it's just like, okay, I got a piece of Artifice armor, but, maybe still make it like 60,
Yeah.
But, oh man, like I'm still grinding because I want this Artifice piece as a random drop. And, because I wanted 65 or above, right? And so they could just mess with the stat distributions, maybe make certain bars like thicker, in competitive versus. People talk about they want Artifice armor in Trials, and I'm just like, yeah, that'd be cool to have an additional source of it in a PvP playlist. But comp is like fiending for something right now with regards to rewards. So if folks are going for all these dope and adept weapons in Trials, they still get, great Trials armor. Maybe in comp, that's where the dope armor comes from with regards to Artifice armor. And on top of that, if we're talking about build crafting for PvP and people that are trying to get, this is a playlist about skill progression, ideally skill progression along with rank progression as well. But your skill is supposed to be tied to your rank for the most part. We're going to talk more about that here in a bit. If we're talking about that, then, those folks, the longer that they stay in the playlist, are going to start, build crafting, like tailoring their builds slowly but surely, a little bit tighter in this direction. And Artifice armor is a large part of that, just ensuring that you've got, those D2armorpicker.com statistics, to really min-max your build to your success, right? So it would be dope to see Artifice armor as a random drop in particular. I want to try to keep it as random as possible. I just want folks to engage in the playlist, and I'm really, really hesitant, to put anything tied to rank and things in comp. I just want people there because the longer that people are there, hopefully they notice the intrinsic reward of improvement and progression, which is what the playlist is all about. Now, that being said, I would also really enjoy to see some mats. We're talking Ascendant shards. It'd be dope to see Ascendant shards for Ascendant, right? Some Ascendant shards. You've got prisms that you could give out. Maybe higher in the ranks or after a promotion series. And I'd love to see it as well. You get these like really desirable mat rewards, right? After a promotion series, but like on a win or a loss, just to say, hey, I'm glad that you made it to that promotion series. You did a great job, trying to get to that next rank. And whether you win or lose it, you get, something for your effort to move up in the ranks. I think that would be really dope. Just, continue to encourage folks. And then, just even Glimmer and Legendary shards at like the lower levels or lower ranks, maybe, which would definitely help get, new lights engaged and feed them essential mats that they lack for build crafting that legacy players like ourselves are more likely to have in spades. Except for me and, Lego, because we just spend it all on like guns.
We do. I don't have anything.
Like I'm broke, bro. I'm broke.
But that would get me in there though. Let's give me the glimmer. I'd do it for glimmer.
Yo, I'd be glimmer broke all the time. Yo, DMG tweeted about it the other day, and I just got tagged on it the whole time.
I saw that actually, dude. If they actually like gave a reliable source for getting shards, you could go in the Crucible and grind for shards. I would do that at this point.
100%. Let's get this pop thick, baby. Let's get this pop thick. Because
I like these ideas a lot. I didn't think about that. All this stuff would incentivize me to be in there, and they don't require winning or lose, or winning. It could be winning or losing. I like all this stuff.
Yeah. And so we also are getting, let me see, is this currently active? I can't remember, honestly, but we're getting increased Crucible rank multiplier based on...
Yeah, so we have that.
We have that currently right now?
So we have that currently, and that's actually the first thing I do in a season is I go into comp and get my placement done, so that way I can get that extra reward. I don't push super hard in there because it takes a lot of time right now.
Of course.
But just to like get a rank and then kind of let my Crucible reputation go up a little bit faster so that I can get to that seasonal weapon that's tied to the ritual stuff. So yeah, I think that is an okay little benefit to put in there. It's not a huge incentivizer, but it's something.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. I'm with you. Most definitely. I will say that doesn't matter how much my Crucible rank multiplier goes up. I still don't have a God Roll Crisis inverted. I just want to say. I've been going for it for day one. Since day one, Bungie, please just open the faucet on that, please. I just need something, baby. Keep me engaged. I need something.
Hey, at least you can get the thing you're looking for. I want the Crucible Cartesian coordinate, and it doesn't even drop anywhere anymore. Xur has to sell it through RNG for me to get the roll I want.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, before we get into just like the skill versus rank section, because that is definitely something that's a little involved. I guess I just want to say, thanks for the bans on the win traders. That's, I appreciate Bungie's responsiveness and like kind of briefly mentioning it, because I don't know. I appreciate it. It just goes back to these renewed efforts to instill trust, between Bungie and the community. And so I don't know. I just wanted to kind of mention that.
Yeah.
I can't curse here. I was about to say get something, but y'all get it.
And then there's more of that coming with the trials talk in a second. I can't wait.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, let's jump into the skill versus rank thing. I'm curious what your takeaway from all this was. I know you looked at the graphs here too, and that they were really important for you and made a difference in your opinion about things. So I'm curious what you think of all this, all that they have implemented and that they're satisfied with, and then also what they plan to do here.
Gotcha. So under that section, Bungie was talking about once your skill level is set, they say you must play better than your skill consistently over several matches before it will improve your skill. But also they've shared that it isn't particularly easy to fool the system. So on the other side, it isn't particularly easy to fool the system by trying to tank your skill to get easier matches. So, just going back for a second, this section about skill versus rank is about Bungie's efforts to match your rank with your skill, to closely align your rank with your skill through various means and mechanics to make that happen. And so just briefly, I think that I'll speak on it. So anyway, so it's not too easy to fool the system, basically, is what Bungie is saying. Yeah. And just speaking to that, a lot of folks, like yourself, you say as well, that it's frustrating to engage with, a supposed progression system that has you playing, almost the same people, no matter the rank you place at or ascend to, right?
Yeah. So that I'll dive into just my own thoughts there for a second. I struggle with this when I first read. There's a whole section on skill matching versus rank matching. Competitive division matches players based on their skill, not their rank. This can feel counterintuitive, but matching purely based on rank can lead to a couple of bad side effects. And they list kind of those like trying to trick the system, the smurfing, the tanking, all of this. And then they go into some solutions for that, but it's kind of hidden in all this text. Did you have anything you want to say about that before I jump to that part? Because this is the part that sells it for me.
No. Yeah, I'm gonna let you rock. Okay,
I'm gonna rock for a second, because when I first read this whole thing, as I said earlier, comp was the one thing that I was like, I don't know if I want to jump into this, because I saw the skill-based matchmaking again, and that's what everybody's saying online on Twitter. To everybody, like, skill-based matchmaking is still here. boo, Bungie, you suck, you know. But then I kind of read back through it, had Discord kind of not come at me, but, you know, lead me a little bit. But I was the only one thinking this way. A lot of people are thinking this way, that it's skill-based matchmaking again. But they're saying that based on this feedback, they're making some adjustments because it can feel bad, as it does for me. It feels unintuitive to play the same people over and over again, increase your rank, and still play the same people over and over again. So what's going to happen now is they say if you're below your target, not now, but upcoming. They didn't say a specific date on this. I'm assuming it's going to be next season, but we'll see. So they say if you are below your target division rank, so Bungie's skill rating system says you have a target division rank. Like you should be in, like say if you're an adept or you're an ascendant, you're above gold 3, but you get placed in gold 3 and you have yet to reach it during the current season. They're looking to add some additional ranking adjustments as well as blend your division rank with your skill for matchmaking purposes. And I missed that line of for matchmaking purposes. When I read this, I thought, because the next line says, so if you place below your target division, matches should be easier to win when you start your climb and should get more for each win. And my mind just focused on the getting more for each win. And I just thought that it was just going to ramp you up to where it thought you should be faster via points. But that's not the case. It's saying that it will start implementing rank-based matchmaking along with your skill-based matchmaking so that it's not purely skill. You'll actually be able to feel yourself increasing as you work towards where Bungie thinks your actual skill level is. So I am like all in on that. If this is the case and it works where it is based more on your rank if you're below where it thinks you should be, I'm super interested in this playlist all of a sudden, because the problem for me is I feel like I'm wasting my time. I feel like if I'm going to spend hours playing the same people over and over again and not have any rewards for it, if I don't plan, like what if my goal isn't Ascendant 3, what if it's just below that, or what if my actual rank is below it? What if Bungie's skill actually is like, hey, you're actually just below Ascendant 3, you're never going to make it there. Why should I play this at all? Like there's no incentive other than my 3 games a week. This is telling me, no, you will feel the difference as you move up in rank. The games will get harder and you'll feel the progression, not just see it in a rank. And that's what I've wanted from the beginning. And that's kind of what it's saying here. And I think it's what a lot of people are missing. And what I missed the first time I read through it is that you will actually feel a sense of progression and that's what they want. They say right away when they mention the skill-based matchmaking, they say this can feel counterintuitive. And the only reason it was set up that way from the beginning was to avoid some serious problems that happen when it's purely rank based. And so they're implementing a combination of both next season or very soon to alleviate the problems but also let it feel like you're climbing. And I am beyond pumped for that. I'm actually excited to be in that playlist again.
See, I'm so glad. I think that might be like the thing that sticks out the most. Like this particular conversation, the thing that sticks out the most about this document, about this blog post, because I'm one of those folks that ended up missing that part. But not only that, just missing that perspective in general, because you said as well that you were talking about it in the Patrons Lounge, right? In the Destiny Massive Breakdowns Discord. And a lot of, like, as soon as you started talking about that, a lot of people started chiming in with kind of a similar perspective. Yeah. And I just, I think that's really good because if I missed it, then quite a few other people missed it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And if it's something, you
can tell a lot of people missed it on Twitter because SBMM is the highlight of the conversation. It's like, wait, hold up. Like, we're getting 2 connection-based matchmaking playlists all the time, and one of them is not going to change the sandbox. Like, it's not being rotated out for Mayhem and all these other game modes. Like, you're going to be able to have the weapon experience that you want in Destiny in a connection-based matchmaking playlist whenever you want, and we can go into comp, and if we're not at our skill level, like if you're not at your, like say you're a top player, if you're not in Ascendant 3 and you're playing at Gold 3, you'll be able to climb and feel that climb and feel like, whoa, I really am better than I thought I was. I'm not beating my head against a wall for 2 weeks straight. Because if you spend a ton of time in comp, it feels currently like a drag. It feels like what am I doing? I'm just playing the same people. Like I literally went in the other day for my comp matches at the beginning of Lightfall, and I played the same people over and over again. And I was like, what? I'll come here to get my rating and to get my extra Crucible reward, and then I'm out. I'm not going to touch it, And now I'm actually like, I kind of want to see where I land. If I'm going to be able to see myself grow and the matches don't feel the same game after game, they actually feel dynamic and different. I want to see how far I can get. I have that drive that I had when I was playing Rumble and I was watching my elo go up. They're like, how far can I make it? Can I make it top 50? Can I make it top 20? Whoa, how far can I go? And I actually have that same drive here, and that is what excites me.
Dude, that's awesome. That's the highlight, right? That's the show, everybody. That's the show right there. Congratulations. This was Ill Physics. This was Lego the Flash.
Yeah. Good job, Bungie, though. Like, seriously, if it's set up this way, if it's not, and I'm completely way off, that would suck. But I'm pretty sure after several have pointed out to me.
No, it seems. That's the way it seems.
It reads this
after
way.
you explained it and I read it back over a couple more times, that's the way that it seems to me, most definitely. So, yeah, great change. Great change. Somebody over there... Because, again, this wasn't necessarily on my radar. Now, I haven't, most of the time I only engage in the playlist just for my roses. I just kind of like stack and go and get my roses and I'm out. And we could talk about, we already talked about rewards, which is probably, a big part of that. But even me, I didn't know I even needed what you're talking about.
Are you a little excited?
I'm pretty excited to feel it out and see, everything you just said, basically, and you explained it much better than I could in this moment. So I'm gonna just let that sit. But I'm just sitting here a little shook. I'm not gonna lie, because I just need everybody to just rewind and pay attention to what he's saying, because it's kind of a big deal, and it's not something that even I thought that I would need in order to continue to engage in the playlist on a level that's more than just about Rose, which is ideally what I would want, and I'm sure that everybody else would want, that engages in competitive because it says competitive, because they're looking for a space.
Yeah.
You're looking for a space, right?
And it serves two roles too, because it's not just going to appeal to people like me who want to climb and who maybe may not make it to the top, but also it's going to appeal to the people at the top, because it's going to keep because there are people that, back in the Lunas Howl, Not Forgotten days, they just played comp at 5,500 all the time because that's the competitive place to be. You can do that in the competitive playlist too, or you can start at the bottom and you can climb and it'll actually feel different. If you belong at the top, you'll be able to feel that climb until you get there, and then you can stay there if you want to. So I think it serves two different purposes too, which is really cool.
Yeah, and one thing I guess I'll just springboard off of and mention this next note as well about skill versus rank is that it's also going to feel different for if you go in there as a 3-team, as 3 people versus like solo as well. It's going to feel a little different now. So maybe as before I go in solo or even as a duo in Fireteam Matchmaking, or even just if we talk about the freelance playlist when it existed before, right? I'm still going in there against Ascendant level or Platinum level, wherever I end up landing, on their skill spectrum, right? And so now, it's if I either don't have folks to play with, or I just want to go in and play solo and just say, hey, can I make solo to Platinum this season or something like that? I'm not just playing against, if I made it to Ascendant, for example, last season, I'm not just playing against Ascendant players and the same players the entire time, like there's that progression again. So yeah, this is like I said, it's really interesting. We're gonna move on, but I could stay on this all day just because you've blown my mind with this. You've blown my mind. You literally have given me something I didn't even think that I needed.
That's cool.
Or I didn't even think of, that was lacking in my experience. So,
well, if anyone in Bungie's listening, I hope you're smiling right now, because we're both excited for
pretty
this.
Stoked.
Yeah.
Pretty stoked. Yeah.
So the next two changes, there were some general changes here about. Oh yeah. Go ahead. Tony's going, wait.
Wait a second. It's only because in our notes I actually put this in the wrong section, because I was like, man, I'm wondering where this note is that I was talking about earlier. So this is funny. About the statistics that they showed, the specific statistics they showed in the skill versus rank section. Yeah. So I was saying I'm not gonna lie. The stats for competitive vision showing skill versus rank, and the bell curve showing where the player population lies versus the actual rank that they attain it really did actually give me new faith. We were talking about skill-based matchmaking matchmaking and our understanding of how skill-based matchmaking ends up working in line with, rank and with the competitive vision and competitive game modes in particular. And what I like about this section in the blog post is, I don't know, they talk about how it works at a more general level in competitive games a little bit, or at least they allude to it. And it's, I don't know, giving me some new faith in how the system in competitive division is working. I was pretty skeptical going into competitive division about the skill-based matchmaking in general in a competitive mode, but reading a bit more about some of the rhyme and reason for skill-based matchmaking in games, like there was like a blog post or something that was shared with me about how skill-based matchmaking works in Apex Legends, for example, in their competitive mode, a game that I love, and seeing those statistics, seeing this and the statistics that Bungie provided and the description and, them just trying to get us to understand why this system is in place for competitive division with, skill-based matchmaking, again, is what I'm referring to, is definitely giving me a bit more faith in the concept of skill-based matchmaking in competitive modes, as well as some new perspective on how it benefits the wider player base, not just, whether it be me, but just the wider player base and getting more people invested and engaged in the playlist. I think it's an important step, out of our bubbles and seeing this stuff. But also this goes back to, why it's so important for Bungie to continue to provide these types of, statistics for us when talking about the especially fundamental changes to PvP. So, yeah.
I thought the graphs were cool, and all this data was
That's
cool
what he said.
too.
Y'all hear? He said, "Yeah, Tony. I thought the graphs were cool."
They were too. They didn't do as much for me, other than seeing people get banned for cheating their way to the top. That I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I see you, Bungie.
Yeah. No, I feel it. Yeah, the last note I guess I had, I've got a couple more, but one of them is I've heard a lot of people frustrated and confused by only gaining. This is a point they made clear actually. I'm glad they addressed this. So I've heard a lot of people frustrated and confused by only gaining like a few points at the end of a competitive division win, right? And what I would tell them, before Bungie actually made this clear, is that it's probably happening because they're likely playing folks at a substantially lower skill level than themselves. Right. So that's why they're not gaining as many points, which is what Bungie confirmed today. Yeah, I'm just glad they're taking steps to make that more transparent in game, which is cool. what they're doing is they're making it more transparent in game by soon showing the opposing team's average skill level on the scoreboard at the end of the game. So in order to basically alleviate that confusion. So, they heard that feedback, but it's definitely a pain point that I've heard a lot where folks are just confused. Hey, why am I only getting a few points for a win? So that was great to see. And then I just... I had kind of like a question at the end of these notes, and then we'll go into, another section here we're talking about skill here, and we're talking about the internal MMR system or systems in place for setting a player's skill. And I just wrote down a bunch of questions, and I know we had spoken about it a little bit before, but the skill in the internal MMR system, does it take into account oppressive build crafting or heavy out of band weapons? That was one question. How does high ease of use end up playing into the skill metric? If those aren't necessarily or explicitly taken into account, does that mean that it incentivizes that type of play? So what I'm trying to allude to a little bit is just this concept of whenever I get, say for example, I get the platinum, you end up facing platinum and higher, for example, you end up facing more and more teams more frequently in those ranks that double down, triple down, fireteam wise, on really oppressive builds, the most oppressive builds, the most oppressive build crafting, and the most out of band weapons. And so I don't know, maybe I should just leave it at that. I'm just curious, because if something is substantially higher ease of use and even leaning into the oppressive side, and I'm using a hand cannon shotgun, and we all know hand cannons and shotguns ain't really it right now. They're getting back into the meta a little bit, but they ain't really it, right? If I'm using that and I'm performing the same, or I beat that team, how does that end up factoring into the skill metric? Are we on the same level? Am I higher because I'm using a hand cannon shotgun? I don't know.
Yeah, so it gets funky there because it's you want the skill system and your rank to represent your skill as a player in what you do, and then on the flip side there's like skill in utilizing and playing as a team to just demolish the other team with the cheesiest stuff possible. And it's like, if it's in the game, then it's a part of the skill, but then you can make the argument that it's not if you want to play a certain way. And it just comes down to like a definition of skill. And I think I'm not Bungie, so I can't say, but I feel like the system's answer is going to be whatever makes them perform better is the skill, like they are the skilled player. But who knows? I'm not Bungie.
No, of course, you know, and I'm not saying this isn't, you know, I just want to make clear this isn't about, you know, me or, you know, me saying myself or somebody else is better for using this or that. It's not about that. Hopefully folks understand that. I'm just trying to wrap my head around like where that ends up, you know, moving the needle in the skill metric, and does, you know, better balancing the sandbox, which I feel like we're definitely getting from the weapons team a much more substantial effort in with intention behind ensuring we still got spicy builds, we still got fun stuff. We definitely do, but in a competitive setting, there isn't, you know, something that's so far out of band for so long that it just ruins the competitive integrity of especially a mode that is supposed to embrace competitive integrity, like competitive vision, right? Within the realm of space magic, of course, ensuring that there's still space magic in the game. So it was just something that I thought of. But of course, they have talked about skill and how skill does. They have said it. It does include build crafting, you know, in that definition. But I always want to see that minimized in, you know, competitive vision. I'm a bit more of a purist, but the last like few minutes have been a little bit more opinion, but just kind of like food for thought. I don't want to place this on anybody else. Like, this is the way that you think this, you know, it's just some things that came up in my mind when we talk about skill versus rank, and we continue to define, you know, what skill means to us individually, you know, as an audience, as me, as Lego, whoever, and then, you know, how Bungie sees it and how Bungie's internal, you know, skill metric ends up seeing it as well.
It's interesting, too, to me, because everybody's going to have a different definition of that. And there's some teams, especially when you think of D2 year one, where like team shotting and using those abilities like in just the right way is a part of like demolishing someone in 1 second when they come around the corner with 3 Midas from, you know, the same angle. That could be skill. But at the same time, it's like, you walked around the corner with 3 Midas and it's a kill. And so it's just like all up in the air. Like, what is the skill at that point? And it's an interesting conversation. Maybe we'll get to have a Bungie dev on here at some point and say like, hey, so how does the system really look at this stuff?
Yeah. And they can end up articulating it, you know, so much better, and giving us a more clear view on, you know, how the systems working behind the scene end up defining that. But I don't know. It's just definitely something I was thinking about. So cool. All right. Let me see. I had some notes with regards to spawns. I talked about, I don't know if I'll mention what I mentioned before. I will. I probably will. I ain't trying to get hate, man. But, you know, like Bungie is going to end up changing the spawn system. So they had mentioned a couple of maybe posts back about, you know, they weren't completely happy with how the spawns are currently working on certain maps and also in sixes. Not only do I see in that description or in that section how they're being thoughtful about, oh, maybe on, you know, like I said, certain maps will do it this way and other maps maybe will do it something differently. So they recognize, you know, kind of the detriment to this, you know, a particular spawn element or spawn mechanic, I should say, in certain maps versus others, or maybe even like in certain modes as well. So, you know, I appreciated that. But they also said that they're adjusting the spawn overshield from 52 hit points to 150 hit points. They also mentioned that in general, allies will spawn nearer to allies and ally-owned objectives as well.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah, which is generally nice. One. You're laughing because you're thinking what I said earlier. Now I don't know if I should have said it when we were talking. I love hitting spawns, bro. I love hitting spawns. But the thing is, why my playstyle has gravitated or has shifted over time to hit spawns is because I can't find ones anywhere else. That's what kind of, I don't know what's going to happen with this spawn system. We definitely got to feel it out, because the spawning in 6s, I feel like, is aggressive right now. When they said that they were going to change the spawns, I thought it would be more in a way that is going to incentivize, or that is going to allow more 1v1 engagements to happen. Because right now, spawns are so aggressive that it's really difficult for me to navigate the map and try to find a 1v1 with a hand cannon, bro. A hand
That's
cannon
not
is
going to
a
happen
1v1.
in 6s, though. Like,
Yeah,
you know...
yeah.
Like, they're going to spawn them with their team, so that, because otherwise you get the 1v6 against the person who's spawning, you know? Don't look at me like that.
Yeah, I did give you a look. You're right. I didn't know that. I forgot that we're on camera. I did give him a look, and I
He
didn't
was
even
looking at me
intend
like,
to do
bro,
it.
come on.
Yeah, my bad, bro.
No, but there, on the flip side, though, there is this thing where even in Halo, like back even now competitive Halo, there's a thing with rotating and getting to the spawn that is very satisfying. Where you're like, this person's going to spawn here, and you see someone flowing around the map and knowing their spawns. There's something to that, and so I hear where you're coming from.
There's definitely a skill gap to that for sure, and like that's what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to like roll up in a spawn with like 6 people. You know, it's just me.
I just think that's the reason. When I hear it like that, I think that's the reasoning behind the changes. They're trying to prevent that, because that happens so much right now. You spawn randomly in the midst of 5 enemies, and you're like, come on, Bungie, you know? And so I think that's what the goal here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the overshield like boost. So even if I roll up into a spawn, it's a 1v1, but that person is obviously spawning, trying to get you know, their bearings around them or whatnot. You know, I think it's a reasonable middle ground to say, okay, all right, Tony, chill for a second. You know what I'm saying? Don't start pinging them in the head and they just instantly like die. You know, they got a little bit more of a chance to like fight back for that. Ideally, you know, a 1v1, right? So yeah, I thought it was interesting. I was looking forward to seeing, because they had mentioned it in the past, I was looking forward to seeing what type of changes they were thinking of for spawns. And yeah, I guess I just want my 1v1s. I just want to be able to navigate the map for 1v1s and not have to run into like 4 and 5 or even 2 and 3 people kind of all grouped up, because I just feel like the spawns right now in 6s just kind of make that happen more often than not. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a wait and see.
Yeah, and the part that I found interesting in there was even they were gonna like block off portions of the map with barriers potentially, like stuff like that. And this was in 3v3 modes, but they were just talking about spawn points. There's a whole lot of information here. We have so much to cover. I'm not gonna dive deep into it, but if you're interested in learning about how much thought they're putting into these spawns, go read that part of the blog. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. And just moving on, they said they acknowledged, they acknowledged that lobby balancing is still a frequent pain point. So this is kind of just a note on the side. So they didn't give any details on how they're addressing it or potentially going to address it in the future. But I'm definitely interested to see, you know, where they end up with that for sure.
Yeah, and it's good to see the fire team based matchmaking stuff being talked about, and that lobby balancing is kind of up next with that. Up from after that, we got Iron Banner stuff, and they didn't really mention much other than, you know, the fire team based matchmaking and skill based matchmaking being in there as well. The main thing that was important here was they had talks about moving away from completing matches of specific subclasses to earn the pinnacle and turning it into another way to earn that daily reputation bonus. But they don't have solutions that they're happy with yet. I'm just excited that it's not focused on a specific subclass, that they're wanting to move away from that, because it's what ruined, to me, in my opinion, not ruined, but, you know, it's what made it not as pleasant of an experience to have Fortress be introduced with Void subclass specific emphasis. Like, come on, you know, and which now it's solar, and so now of course we've got wells everywhere and the double firebolt grenades. So to see it move away from that and just see people play other stuff, the more variety in the Crucible, the better.
Definitely. Yes, 100%. And that you stated it precisely. You know, so much of what is quote unquote oppressive, it really does, you know, come down sometimes to usage. It really does come down to usage. You know, if everywhere all you see is Le Monarch, you know, then you know, it's unequivocally, you know, oppressive. I would argue it's still kind of oppressive in 3s. I'm just saying, but something like Void 3.0, just like you said, I think Void 3.0 is great right now. I think that most of the ability stuff is great right now. But, if you see only healing, that's what made Solo 3.0, when it released that season, so oppressive, so annoying, so frustrating, is because all you saw was healing, and it's not as if much of Solo 3.0 got nerfed to the point where it isn't still like viable or potent. It's just that we have diversity, right?
Yeah.
And we have other 3.0s that are countering as well. So I completely agree. And this was a good change and something that I look forward to. I also just don't want to play that often. Like, I want to play whatever I want to play.
Right. That's me.
So I don't even do it. Yeah. If it's void and stasis, like, bro, I'm sorry, I'm on a warlock. All I do is play solar. I'm not equipping it. So,
but I need the Iron Banner engrams, which we're going to talk about soon. So,
cool. Well, that was season 20 stuff. So that's stuff for the mid-season.
Yeah.
What's going to happen start of season 21? What do we got?
Dude, I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we got Trials stuff, new Trials stuff. They've mentioned currently fire team based matchmaking is going well. They put up some graphs. It's kind of meeting their statistics, and it really, like we talked about it already. Played this weekend. If you played duos, you were matching duos. You played solos, you were matching solos for the most part. Felt really great. We already kind of praised that a little bit. Now, in season 21, they're introducing 2 new matchmaking pools. They're soft pools, so they can interchange between the 2 of them infrequently, but for the most part, they won't, and they are getting rid of the flawless pool. So they really want to emphasize the problems of not being able to play with your friends and just being able to jump in there at all time. All the win resetters, flawless pool avoiders, all of it at the same time with these 2 new matchmaking pools. They're going to test
population split and splitting population as well.
Too, yeah.
They're addressing that as well with it.
Hopefully the way that these are split, it's not going to be a detriment because these type of players shouldn't play each other anyway. Kind of like with the other matchmaking split with the connection-based stuff.
Correct.
Yeah, so they're going to test these 2 different pools during the Trials Labs during this season and kind of make adjustments from there into next season. So the goals, I kind of mentioned a little bit, but here are the goals that they listed. Allow players to play with friends without worrying about flawless. Remove the motivation to reset cards to farm or carry, and better protect players who are struggling to find success and, let's face it, would probably leave the playlist or not play anyway. So the goal is get more people in there, playing all the time, less frustrating experience. So the 2 pools are the challenger pool and the practice pool, the Trials Kitty pool. Someone's gonna say it. They're gonna say it.
I didn't think you were gonna say it.
Well, here's the deal: they're gonna say it, but this is really cool. I'm so pumped for this. I said I was really pumped about the comp stuff. I'm even more pumped for this because I love the elimination playlist. I love the Trials experience, and this just sounds so much fun. So challenger pool, this is where most players who play Trials week to week will go, and then the practice pool is targeted at new or less experienced players. The challenger pool is solely based on connection. No more card based matchmaking, no more flawless pool. It is all connection based. So it does not get more difficult as the card progresses. It's just random, connection based random. And then in this playlist, the challenger pools, players who have any card with no losses will be in this playlist, or playing with someone who has no losses. So if there is, people used to reset and carry someone who had no losses, that is no longer the case. If someone in the team has no losses, they will be in the challenger pool. The practice pool is you're put in there if you have a flawed card or if you're on your very first game of the card. It is matchmaking. The matchmaking is connection-based and weekly performance-based. So it does utilize your connection, but also your weekly performance for that week. Now, within this, of course, you may be thinking, well, what if I'm just resetting my card and I'm farming those first wins as we have seen in the past few seasons? There is stomp protection. If you're always struggling in this playlist, it will match you with lower skills as you go. So you're not just getting stomped all the time. It's being like, okay, you're not doing as well. Let's place you with lower people. But it also works the other way around. There is farming protection. So if it sees you farming in this playlist, it will find out very quickly it will slow your matchmaking time. So it will take you longer to even find a match. And then finally, if you keep doing it, then it will lock you into the challenger pool for the rest of the weekend. You cannot even get in the practice pool anymore.
I giggled so hard when I saw this.
So good. It's like a backhanded, like, yeah, we see you and no more, you know?
Yeah. No more of this. No more of this. Love it.
So good. All right. So those are the two pools, and that's the way it's going to work. And then on top of this, they're introducing, or not new passages, but they're changing the way two of the passages work. Wealth passage will gain extra trials rank every win, which kind of already happens. Well, it's kind of like extra at the 3, 5, and 7 right now, I think. But now it's going to have your amount increase every trials rank you go up. So your actual reputation rank as you go up, wealth passage will increase your rep at the same time. So very beneficial if you're looking to get your rank up. I kind of run it anyways right now. This season, I got the shotgun already, maxing my rank out, but it will help kind of do that faster. And then on the flip side, we got the mercy passage now forgives 2 losses.
Yeah.
Not just one.
That's huge. That's huge. You know, because I think much of the community, whether it's the Trials community specifically or not, but much of the community has come around to the consensus that there needs to be some more forgiveness with regards, to the lighthouse. I mean, population's everything, right? It can't. We gotta move on, people. You know what I'm saying? It's been the same since D1. We got to move on, and we got to kind of evolve with the times, and just ensure that population remains thick, and that we are also ensuring that we are just very friendly with regards to the mechanics to our new lights, and folks, we can't just exclude. We're gonna have people like trickling off to other games eventually, so we've got to always be inviting in how the game works, to pull new people in, and hopefully be encouraging, whether it be interpersonal skills or the game itself, be encouraging to stay in the Crucible and to have fun and to find it rewarding, whether it's intrinsically or extrinsically. So it's great to see the wealth passage changes. It's great to see that mercy change is huge. But I'm glad that we are hopefully embracing this as a community. But even if we aren't, Bungie is. So that's a dub to me.
Dude, huge dub. I cannot emphasize how excited I am for this. Just the fact that it's emphasized that they want us to play with friends without worrying about flawless again. I did that at least 5 times this weekend to people who are like, hey, what you doing? And I was like, sorry, I'm in flawless pool already. And then our friendship, the relationship ends right there for the weekend. And I'm off to do my thing and they're off to do their thing. And no more, finally. Oh my gosh, it's such a fun pool to be in. I loved in D1. Another thing, it's connection based. So you said they're moving on from the old experience, and that's true, but they're also embracing some of the joy of the D1 Trials experience with the connection-based matchmaking again, but also the freedom and flexibility and growth of the playlist to have this practice pool to help introduce people to the playlist, or even just get in there and earn some Trials rep and not feel worthless afterwards, for getting pounded in by these Trials resetters, or just, people who are good at the game and maybe they're not as good, and they can play other people who are not as good and get them involved in the playlist. Because right now, honestly, they're just not even going to touch it. So
you oh my God. You said it. There's so many people that have said I'm never going to touch this. Yeah. I'm never going to touch this, and those are the people we need to get in there to get them some loot, get them and hopefully for them to find it a rewarding experience. I'm not saying that everybody is going to, of course, but you said it. There's so many people that I've talked to. They're just like, for many of the things that are being addressed, in some of these changes, people are just like, I'm not touching Trials. It's not a place that I like, this specific thing right here. Like, it's too daunting. I feel like crap afterwards, like these changes are specifically, starting to address some of those hindrances, and I'm excited to see new people in the playlist, the population to hopefully stay thick throughout the season, including towards the end, and just to see more people. I think my favorite thing that I saw after this weekend, I know it's my favorite thing, is so many people on Twitter that. and also that came into my chat and said, "Hey, I went solo flawless," and they were so proud and they were so happy with the effort and the persistence that went into it. I don't know, man. It made me feel some sort of way because, yeah. We ain't gatekeeping out here, baby. Like this ain't about gatekeeping, man. That's exactly what it's about right there. That's exactly what it's about. It's just like, hey, I found this rewarding intrinsically, greatly rewarding intrinsically. Like I found the gameplay loop, the improvement loop, fun and rewarding. But also at the end, when I got to the lighthouse, when I saw that shine, when I saw that sun, when I saw Saint 14, when I opened that chest, I got some dope loot as well. I got the ship. I got the Sparrow.
Yeah.
It's something that I never thought that I'd be able to attain, especially solo. And so, yeah, I love it.
And then on top of that, it's rewarding people, which I haven't even got to that part yet, but the new system is going to reward people for going flawless and staying in there. So there's a new flawless emblem that's rewarded for going flawless without ever trailing in any of your wins. And maybe you can tell me what you think this means, because for me, it reminds me of the old D1 emblem where like you go flawless and you keep going and you randomly like get that emblem and you're like, oh, we got it to drop, you know?
Oh, yeah,
I'm not
the Scarab
sure if
emblem.
Yeah, Scarab. Yeah,
Yes.
so I'm not sure if it's going to be like that, but, just more rewards for reaching the goal. Always great to see. They're changing Gilded Flawless to where it's more in line with Gilded Glorious, better rewarding our dedication there. Because right now it's very much like play with a seasonal weapon, carry somebody, get it done. It seems more like, okay, this is we're gonna make it more for the people who are really in Trials and really it means something to gild it. That's cool. All on board with that. Okay, so now we're going to cut to Trials Labs. They are going to do zone capture elimination, now called Dominion, and that's going to be in Trials Labs as well. And then after that, we're also going to be introducing new Crucible modes. So we already talked about bringing back Countdown. They kind of went more into detail that it's not just Countdown. They're bringing back Countdown Classic, Countdown Respawn, and Countdown Rush. Countdown Classics, what we all know, set a bomb, 35 seconds to defuse, you take turns being attacked, defend. Countdown Respawn is the same thing, but there's no elimination rules. You just keep respawning in 7 seconds, and they've got res tokens. And then Countdown Rush, this is the one that sounds super interesting to me. I'm not sure if I'm going to love it or hate it, but multiple charges per round and how many can you detonate? Still the 7-second respawn and res tokens. So like Countdown, it's like Countdown Respawn, but it's Countdown Rush. There's multiple charges. So this reminds me of the end of Rift. If you tie, there's like 3 bombs and it's like, who can make it first? It's my favorite part of Rift. The entire thing is that. And so if it feels anything like that, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm with it. You know,
so
I read
chaotic.
that and I was just like, that sounds silly.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to like that.
I think I'm going to like it, yeah.
I think I'm going to like that. That sounds fun. I'm not going to lie. And so maybe they like noticed how it was playing in Rift. And,
maybe.
When those 3 charges are there and recognize like how fun folks, how silly and, the levity that it added to the mode. And they were just like, let's do this in this countdown mode. So that sounds fun. That sounds fun. I enjoyed reading that.
And then there's also a brand new mode called Checkmate, which is a slower pace experience as power spikes are earned, and that includes special ammo, ability, recharge rates, weapon TTK, and player health. It's a significant shift from the core experience, and they're even making it a modifier, like a Nightfall modifier, which means they can add it to other game modes. So
That's right.
One really weird thing here is a lot of people online are saying this is the weapon focused, and I guess yes it is, but they also mentioned like weapon time to kill changing and player health. So don't place all I'm saying is don't place all your hopes on it being the tactical like without abilities mode, because there may be other stuff going on here. We don't have the full picture, but it is a new mode, and it's cool that they're making modes as a modifier so that they can stick them into other game modes and adjust them. That's the cool part to me.
Yeah, that was the thing that stuck out to me for sure as well. It just gives them more flexibility to toss it pretty much like anywhere else in the game that they want, right?
Yeah,
so
totally.
That blew me away. That blew me away. Yeah. What is interesting, and just like you said, is there's a lot of questions surrounding this mode for sure. Which again, this mode is coming in season 22. Season 22 is when we're supposed to see this mode. When we talk about slower paced experience, we talk about like a slower TTK. I mean, honestly, I was definitely like trying to throw my hopes a little, into a more tactical, slower ability recharge mode. But of course, I'm open to seeing how it ends up playing out. I'm certainly not demanding that be the case by any means.
Yeah.
But I was hoping for more wording, something like, more intentional pace instead of like slower pace. I don't know. It threw me. I'm not saying I'd making assumptions one way or the other, but it definitely threw me a little bit.
It's interesting because that experience you're talking about kind of exists in momentum control, but it's not like this as a modifier, and so it's just momentum control. But if they said they're going to make the other modes into that too, and so if momentum gets changed into like momentum rumble, and in momentum your abilities don't go as fast, you use it and they're gone, and it's a faster TTK focused on your weapons. It like totally changes the sandbox, but it feels like SWAT from Halo almost. If you haven't played it, man, go play momentum control. It's so much fun, but it's very different sandbox. And so if we got like momentum rumble, and like you didn't have that, you could use your ability once, and then that's kind of it for a long period of time, and you're out there with a faster TTK on your primary. It's almost like special weapons don't exist. That sounds like a fun mode for me. I would play rumble momentum. That sounds awesome. Momentum rumble, however they decide to do it. But I don't know. Just that was the thought that came to me with this, is like, if I'm looking for that, maybe momentum is coming in different forms. Checkmate. We'll see what it's like.
Yeah, we'll see what it's like. And in the end, I'm sure you feel the same way. As I'm just happy to see these new modes.
Right.
What do we talk about? New maps, new modes. Those were two big requests, coming a couple of years ago, where people kind of coalesced around those requests. And so we're getting a bunch of new modes, and they are clearly experimenting. They said they're experimenting. We're getting Crucible Labs back with some really new and dynamic changes. So yeah, looking forward to it either way. And I'm going to play it and we'll give the feedback when it happens, right?
Yeah. There's one other thing I wanted to say about the mode stuff. The Trials Lab in particular. Zone. This is the last thing I'll say about the blog post. Zone capture elimination. Just my own little I love basic elimination so much, and when zone capture elimination comes into play, we get a lot of defensive bubble well stuff. Like, it comes to the forefront, and that's like the thing that I'm afraid of. But I also know zone capture as a mode where kills don't matter as much is huge in the competitive community. Like, players really like that. I'm just as not much of a fan of it, and I really like the classic Trials elimination. But as I talked about in the Patrons Discord today, not everyone's as much of a fan as elimination as I am. I just really like that mode, but I understand it's not for everybody. So I'm open to seeing things rotate and change as well. Like you said, variety's good.
Variety's good. I'm going to just double down on that again and say you absolutely nailed it. Variety's good. And whether it's elimination or something else, it's nice to see that diversity, because then we don't get fatigued as easily, right? Elimination, I love elimination. I love Trials, but I love respawn modes as well. And I play both. So I'm glad that we are blessed with, areas, corners of the Crucible that allow us to do both. But it's the same thing that I said about Showdown. I would love to see a Showdown Trials Labs. I love that mode. I love that mode outside of some of the, small bugs that exist with it. But it's super refreshing whenever Showdown ends up showing up in competitive division, right? We've been playing survival for so long. It's just nice to go into the competitive division and frag out a little bit in between maybe like survival modes and survival mode and Rift every once in a while, but just slay out something similar to like Sixes or something similar to the Skirmish back in D1, right? So I completely agree with that assessment. Diversity's good, variety's good, and I'm glad that we're getting that soon.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the deep dive of some of these weapons, I just want to quickly show some of the Guardians some thanks for the generous support. We got new patrons: Easy Pete, Bossman335, Oracle563, and George McBay. Thank y'all so much for your support. And then on top of that, we got the patrons that keep the lights on, our sponsor, Guardians, that give on a massive level every month.
Yes.
This week we got Binary Wolf, Black Hammer Tech, Bryce Aroni, Asking Monk, Deacon, Moonlight, Shazzle, This Moment, and Zen SoCal. Thank you, every single one of you, so much for keeping this podcast going.
Most definitely. And if you'd like to support the show, please visit DestinyMassiveBreakdowns.com and click on the link to Patreon. You'll get access to a members-only channel in the Discord, behind-the-scenes info, and input on the future of the show, plus access to our legendary annual merch drop. As a reminder, you can also earn a shout out by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. As always, ratings are great, but the reviews really help us to spread the word and get more ears tuned in every week. And finally, thanks to the Destiny Massive Breakdowns editors, Nettie Smith and Autodidactos, for their hard work on this show and also Podcast vs. Enemies, the Destiny PvE show that explains it all. Fantastic show. Go give it a listen if you haven't.
Yeah.
If you think we sound great, know that it's because of our fantastic editors.
Yeah, for real. Go check out the other shows, Destiny PvE show, the Podcast versus Enemies. Those guys know their stuff.
They know their stuff, man.
I was playing with them, just doing a raid with them before we started the show, and I tried to bust out my Thunderlord, and they were like, nah. What are you doing? And I was like, but it's easy. And they're like, no, come on, we're using rockets. Get over here, And so they were trying to show me the way. My DPS was still pretty low, but what can I say? I wasn't prepared, man. Wasn't prepared. Everyone told me to run Thunderlord, so that's what I was doing.
I would have done the same thing, so I'm right there with you.
But we're going to talk about something else that I ran in here, because we're going to talk about Iron Banner weapons. We're going to talk about the Trials weapons. First, we got to talk about the Immortal, the SMG. Oh my gosh, this is an aggressive frame SMG. It says 750 RPM, but technically these fire at 720 RPM if you frame by frame it, just heads up. So as we do TTK calculations, everything, that is what it's based on. That's what it is in the Destiny Massive Breakdown spreadsheet, and that's what it is. Big shout out here. D2Foundry.gg is killing it with their perk pull selection. I know a lot of people using Light.gg, D2 Gunsmith, D2Foundry.gg. They are keeping up just the slickest site that now has the ability to click on the perks and you can see them dynamically change the stats of your weapon. Like if you select Killing Wind, you can say activate Killing Wind and it shows it to you. So, and
it's crazy.
One really cool thing that they added is they just added, as of today, maybe it was yesterday, target lock, which is very important as we talk about here. You can activate it in the perk pool and see the time to kill values change, which is just magnificent because that equation is very complicated.
Yeah. Understatement.
Understatement.
So, for real.
At base, the Immortal, technically 720 RPM against 10 Resil is at a 0.75 second time to kill with a very forgiving 80% crit percentage required from 10 bullets. So 0.75 seconds. That's pretty good at base against 10 Resil.
Yeah.
And then it gets crazy. But before we get to how it changes, let's talk about the base stats because this is also crazy. Base stability is jacked, just like Aikilos at 25. That's the highest stability of the archetype of the aggressive frame. Below that is the Title, which is the Guardian Games SMG at 20. And then below that is Borrowed Time at 18. And as you know, the Dawning one was even below that. It was in the single digits. So 25 is a lot for an aggressive frame.
Yeah.
And then you got base range is also jacked at 50, which is higher than anything else out there. So just base stats alone, great package. And then aim assist, you guessed it, is also jacked and is at the highest of any aggressive at 39, just 1 point above Borrowed Time, which might be why I liked this SMG immediately. I was like, oh, I love Borrowed Time. And
you and everybody else, bro.
Everyone else, yeah. Well, there's a lot of reasons to love this thing, and the perk pull is one of them. So that's the base stats right there. I'm going to keep rolling here because I'm just going to roll through it and then talk our thoughts on it. So I just want to hit the range talk real quick. So at base, at that 50 meters, okay, well, at base it's 18.5 meters before damage drop off, but then you fully deck it out with all range, adept range mod, alacrity, or field test active if you can get it to activate. You can get up to 100 range on this thing with all those things active. You stack on rangefinder and the 100 range, you're hitting 25.7 meters before damage fall off.
Crazy.
Yeah. And then
that's crazy.
You can take it up a step further because you're not using the fourth column perk at all, but if you put Killing Wind in there and you have both of them active at the same time, rangefinder and Killing Wind, you're hitting 27 meters before damage fall off even starts.
No wonder I did not see a single auto rifle in Trials this weekend.
Yeah, why? You don't need them. Honestly.
Oh man.
It gets worse though, Tony. Okay, so target
worse
lock.
or better? Worse or better?
Yeah, I guess it depends. Okay, I actually had a talk with this with the PvE guys beforehand, and I do want to correct myself because I think it's fun to have something strong. I know it's very common for somebody to come out right away and be like, it's broken, or this is going to get nerfed, or this is ridiculous. But it's also okay to be like, this thing's awesome. And I think that's an okay approach to take, even though everybody's using it and you may be annoyed by it. You can also pick one up and say, this is cool. Okay.
I've said it before. Before we get to target lock, I'll just mention this. It's just like, I think it's dope that something like this came out. I think it's awesome that folks are having fun with it. I've seen several people be like, this is the most fun that I've had with a weapon in a long time.
Cool.
That is not an isolated event. That's not an isolated one person I've heard that from. I've heard that from so many people. Folks are just really enjoying the feel. I mean, Destiny does gunplay well, right? So they juiced it, most definitely. Now, I've said this, I think sometime in the last couple episodes, it's awesome that something like this comes out. It's obviously out of band, but as long as Bungie recognizes that, I'm sure they recognized it before it dropped. As long as they have some threads, that they can unravel. It was last
some
episode.
Thread links and unravel. Look at you with the strand verbiage.
Something that they could kind of tug at to pull it back. They already kind of have a plan of where they could pull back on this, with thoughtfulness in it to bring it back in line. So I think that there's something like that is happening most likely in the background, but folks are having fun now. I'm all for it. Yeah.
Well, speaking of fun, there is some melting to be had with target lock. So me and Tony were talking before the show. I was like, hey, here's the target lock numbers. And he's like, let me up my Resil real quick. Hold on. As he's running Trials. Because you better run at least 5 Resil. Here's your magic number. Because at 4 Resil and under, you're getting melted at 0.58 seconds with only 8 crits required. That is fast.
Yeah, I got no words, but this is also because we were talking about it, when Mossy dropped it, right?
Yeah.
When Mossy dropped the details. All right, what else?
Okay, so keep in mind, this is all, we didn't use that 4th column that has target lock in it to get that 25.7 meters. And, this is kind of, we didn't test this in game. This is through formulas that are on D2 Foundry. But pretty accurate given what I've seen. 25 meters with 0.58 seconds. You can have both of those at the same time. And then everything above 4 Resil will be 0.67 seconds with only 9 bullets. So you're, no matter what with target lock, you're still shaving off 1 bullet from the base, no matter what Resil you're at. It's just that if you're running 4 and under, it's not looking good for you.
You get melted. Melted. At 4, you're probably feeling like everything, every target lock Immortal is melting you like Teraba. That's the way that I compare it. Because I think at a certain, it's Teraba. At a certain point, I was on my Hunter running lower than, and it clicked. I was just like, I might need to up it. And then once I saw Mossy's spreadsheet, I was like, I definitely need to up this.
And I should make a correction there. I said everything above is 1 bullet off. That's not necessarily true. There is a middle ground here between, if you're running 5 to 7 Resil, it's the same target lock or not. So if you're in that sweet spot, the gun will feel the same for you. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, but if you look at the numbers, that's what it ends up at. That's just a 0.67 seconds, no matter what, just standard on that gun. So, but if you're running above that at 8, 9, 10, it will take longer, that 0.75 seconds at base, but that turns into a 0.67 seconds with target lock. So it does, if you're using it against higher Resil, it's a little faster, but if you're in that middle ground, 5 to 7, it's going to feel the same no matter what Resil you're running. So it's a good tool, again, at least at this moment, unless something changes, a good tool against high Resil Titans to lower that TTK, but good for you to know defensively, you should be in that above 5 Resil if you want to not get knocked down to that 0.58 second TTK.
Yeah, and what I like about that, honestly, is 5 to 7 is reasonable. That's a reasonable amount of resilience. I can get to that on my Hunter just fine. I did get to that just, without, I mean, we're definitely strapped for stats on Hunter right now, for sure. Bungie, we are strapped. Please do something with mobility, baby, please.
Oh, man.
But, 5 to 7 is definitely reasonable, so.
Yeah, so with all this, there's two other little notes here before I dive into the perk. One is that just a reminder that threadlings from the hatchling perk, they do 41 damage unless you're running the fragment that makes it 45. So if you're locking that into your build, just something to remember. And then also there's these intrinsic perk. We got the origin traits, Alacrity, One Quiet Moment, are field tested. I see a lot of people say to run field tested, but as I looked at the perk, it is based off of you need a certain amount of hits to reach stack 1. And if you're doing a lot of killing, I guess it makes sense, but you need 51 hits to reach stack 1. That's a lot of hits, much more than a single kill. A single kill will give you a little bit more, like they've estimated around 6 hits, but still that's a lot of hits needed to get to stage 1 of field tested. So as you're examining whether you want Alacrity or field tested, just think about that for a second. Like, I could be, obviously if you're running quick play, you pretty much, I want to be running field tested, but if you're running trials, I would probably run Alacrity no matter what. So just a heads up on that. I didn't realize how many hits it was needed to get to just stack 1.
I didn't realize that either, because I definitely had somebody come through chat and they were just like, hey, Tony, feel sad. They were just saying when I was looking for my hatchling role in particular, they were just like, yeah, don't worry about like the perks on the other side with regards to range, in particular. In PvE in particular, field tested is going to end up playing quite well sense. Because, 51 hits and if we're talking about kills, getting you to stack 1 as well pretty quickly. That in PvE is gonna play like really, really well, right? So it's interesting to see like the actual details behind why that person said it, because I think they said it and they just dipped. So thanks for leaving me hanging, brother.
That's interesting. Yeah, okay. So there's all the details on some of the perks and how they interact. But with this perk pool, there's a lot of great stuff here. Dynamic sway reduction, perpetual motion, threat detector surplus, encore, keep away, rangefinder. These are all great perks. And then in the fourth column, target lock, kill clip, killing wind, tap the trigger. Then for PvE, more so demolitionist, focus, and then focus fury and hatchling. So there's just a ton of great perks here. I'm curious for you, before I get to my roles, if you had anything that you were like, this is the role I'm going for. Because to me, I feel like you're almost crazy if you don't go rangefinder. I have a dynamic sway one. That's the only other one that I'm like, oh, maybe. But I tried it compared to my rangefinder role, and it just doesn't even compare. Rangefinder is so good that and I've heard people say keep away too, but you have to remember keep away is only active if no enemies are around in 15 meters. And where do you use an SMG but within close range? So it's kind of like you're battling yourself. You could get slightly outside of that without rangefinder, but still it's like, why not just use rangefinder? Do yourself a favor.
Exactly. Always on, right? Always on. I mean, and I could see a reason for keep away on, I've spoke about this before, on round robin, for example. We're talking about a weapon that is reaching out to 35 meters on average, right? And so, especially if we're talking about N3s in a competitive game mode, it's likely that you're going to be able to get that to proc. But on an SMG, because I don't think I mentioned a second ago, but 15 meters is what we're talking about for keep away. I can't remember whether you mentioned that or not, but rangefinder always on. I'm not like a big SMG and PvP type of person. My hand cannon shotgun, but I mean, you're right. Why would you not just go for the easy, consistent? I don't have to think about, much in that column on whether it procs or doesn't proc rangefinder, right? And SMGs, you're always trying to get it to reach out and touch and to ensure that, you get as much damage as far out, kind of just referring to rangefinder and the effects of damage fall off, just helping to improve that curve, right? Man, dynamic sway, you can't sleep on that. Not on spitters.
But can you, though, if you got rangefinder in the same column?
I mean, if you're really trying to get up in somebody's face, like on a PK Titan, close that distance on a PK. I'm talking a PK Titan, bro.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Say, for example, they take rangefinder off of this thing. A PK Titan's still going to slide up on you real fast. fast, you know?
I know.
And as long as they have consistency, it's going to still put in work on this. Keep in mind as well that the range is juiced on this thing.
Yeah.
The range is juiced on this thing already. And I'm not, of course, rangefinder is the look here play of, people, of course. But I'm just saying, even without rangefinder, I still think that this thing is pretty competitive, especially with the right build. And, honestly, the right build is PK Titan, right?
See, well, for me, I have the dynamic sway target lock. That's the only target lock I have, actually, is a dynamic sway target lock. It's got good range on it, and I still prefer all my rangefinder rolls over the target lock one because it just feels more consistent, even if I'm outputting slightly more damage. I'm a dynamic sway, like, I bow down to dynamic sway. Like, I love it,
the cult of dynamic sway.
Yeah, cult of dynamic sway, but I am cult of rangefinder even harder. And it's because of that 10% increase zoom, y'all need to remember, doesn't just increase zoom. That affects your aim assist fall off distance. That affects your damage fall off, like literally everything. I know aim assist fall off distance was nerfed off of the rangefinder perk, but the 10% increase zoom still affects that aim assist fall off distance. So just keep that in mind. It affects a lot of different things, that extra zoom. So I think in all my roles, I'm going to recommend rangefinder flat out.
PvP most def.
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, maybe it's just me sitting over here kind of just like not trying to get rangefinder nerfed because you really about to get it nerfed, dog. I need you to chill with all the explanations, bro.
I know. It'd be okay if it got nerfed on fusions, but on everything else, I think it's fine. It's just the fact that this one's jacked already and feels so good.
And this puts it like way over the top.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me talk about two of the roles that I have here, because I think that the one that most people are going for is the full bore, like max range, full bore, ricochet rounds, rangefinder, target lock with range masterwork and adept range mod. That puts you at 90 range without alacrity. And you've got rangefinder on top of that. But you're only at 28 stability. Just keep that in mind. It doesn't really matter that much. And the 28 stability is still amazing compared to the other aggressive frames that we have that are like this. So, I mean, that's still great to have 90 range and 28 stability. And then if you get alacrity active, it bumps it up even further. You activate alacrity, and you're now at 48 stability and 100 range. That's insane. Insane right there. In Rumble, this thing's going to go hard.
It already is. It already is. Yeah. That's why I don't touch it, man. That's why I don't touch it. Because I've seen some streams, and I'm just like, this is crazy, man. This is great. It's just, that's all it is that SMG, PK Titan, like, and they're just running into each other. Maybe that makes it balanced, though.
Okay, but I got something spicier for you, though. I got something spicier.
What you got?
I got a rangefinder kill clip roll to drop.
Okay.
Instantly my favorite my favorite SMG in the game. So I see people in Rumble sometimes go on the streak where they do they're just constantly feeding people, and I got a clip just back-to-back 5 kills in a row, and like it was nothing. I'm not even running any overshield, insta-hill, any of that stuff. I'm just sitting there with my normal Graviton 4-foot build, like a nobody, just like spraying people down, reload, spray the next guy down, reload. And so kill clip on this thing takes you from, at base you're at that 0.75, and with the target lock, it can bring you down to 0.58 seconds with only 8 crits, but that's only if they're 4 resilient under. There's people running that, Tony, but
you gotta come on, bro.
but not a ton of people are running that, especially not any Titans. Kill clip takes you to a 0.58 second, no matter the resil. And if they're running that 4 and under, then it only takes me 7 bullets with a 0.5 second time to kill, shaving off
that's wild.
Even more time. Yeah. So it just felt unbelievable. And I used it for a bit and was blown away. And I think, honestly, especially if target lock gets looked at, which I think it's going to, given everything that's happening right now and the trial stats. For those who don't know, this gun is like way up there. Within its first weekend is thousands of kills above everything.
Yep.
It's insane.
I think it was something like 10 million. It was like 10%, 10 to 15% across the Adept version. And I mean, I'm going to check it in a second just to double check. But across the Adept version and the normal version, like it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Huge
you know, like
numbers.
I was telling people, you know, in Iron Banner, this is all you're going to see pretty much, right? Because the population was so thick, and it's pretty much all you're seeing. It's like laser tag week again with Prometheus Lens. So it's almost assuredly that you know, something's going to get touched with it, either the frame itself or which has been, you know, needing to be maybe looked at for a little bit, or target lock. It's nice to have people were definitely towards the end of the weekend realizing once those stats were coming back that, hey, we need to have backups because something gonna get looked at. And I started cheesing whenever you said rangefinder, because I haven't looked at this part of the document yet. Whenever you said rangefinder kill clip, and I don't know if you saw it, but there was like a smile.
I saw it.
There was a smile that came out my face. You know, out the side of my face because I pulled up Dim right then and there, bro.
Oh no!
Hammer Forge.
Did you get one?
Range Masterwork.
No way.
Appended mag, rangefinder, kill clip, or killing wind, baby. We in there. I got one.
Or killing wind. Nice.
Or killing wind. I got one, baby.
Very nice. Okay, well, here's my preferred roll. If I could like craft it myself, everything, I would go actually small bore. I liked a little bit of stability in there. I know that's not like super everyone, but
it's not a bad idea either as kind of insurance, because 750s, if they were going to touch the frame, they might actually make stability matter a little bit more. I mean, that would be the first thought for me. So you know, and
not only that, but it gets pretty crazy. So small bore, ricochet rounds, rangefinder, and kill clip with a range masterwork and adept range mod. So that puts you at 45 stability and 82 range. And then with Alacrity active, I'm actually at 100 range and 65 stability. So get that plus 20 bump in stats to both of those.
Yeah.
And I'm just like I didn't have the small bore and ricochet rounds, and I was back at full bore. And so that's with that 0.5 second TTK if they're below, 4 Resil or below. So 100 range, 65 stability. This is just if I could roll it any way I wanted to.
Of course.
I would love this thing, and I already do love the one I have. It's not quite this setup, but it's really close. I will say, just one tip with this thing. I know it's going to be tempting to run Killing Wind use, and even I think Merc or somebody mentioned it in a blog post. Some of them were like, "Oh, Killing Wind rangefinder," because on paper, Killing Wind extending your aim assist fall off distance by that 5%. It's like, ooh, that sounds tempting. Not many things in the game can do that. Okay. But I used it, and here's the thing. Killing Wind with that extra 5% increased damage fall off distance doesn't really matter for me if the aim assist fall off distance isn't increased with it. And because I didn't feel that stickiness, even though the damage was still there if I hit the shot. It's just much harder to hit the shot without it. And the extra range doesn't really matter because I'm already at 100 range with Alacrity or 82 without, and I can just use Kill Clip or something much more deadly in that column. So that's kind of just my overall feelings on it after using both. I had a rangefinder kill clip and a rangefinder killing wind, and I just never, the killing wind one just never clicked with me. Like kill clip immediately jaw on the floor, killing wind, I feel like it's not really helping me any bit.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me. That makes sense. It's not as if this just came out, right? So it's not as if I've thought about it deep enough to recognize that, but that's a good note with regards to Killing Wind. What I will say as well is tap the triggers on the end of there as well.
Yeah.
Just something to kind of like keep in mind for folks that want that additional consistency, especially again if they end up doing something with regards to recoil or stability. It's not a bad idea to kind of have an insulated roll like that. So
good insurance. Yeah, if you want to keep a dynamic sway, tap the trigger, or even an encore kill clip, something like that like rewards your kill and stacks some bonus stuff on it.
True. The synergy.
Not a bad idea for sure. Okay, I really want to move on to this. I mean, I know SMG was the hype. I think we laid it out pretty well. We're not sure.
We're about to talk about the next hype. This is about to be the next hype. This is going to be another thick weekend. This needs to be Burnout. By the way, this needs to be a Burnout weekend with Astral Horizon. I'm just saying, Bungie.
I'd take Anomaly too. That would be Anomaly and Astral Horizon fit pretty good together to me.
You don't. That's you. We be right back to it. That's all you see is Astral Horizon.
Yeah,
10 million
exactly.
kills.
We do the same thing.
Right.
I think it's perfect. Honestly, that's me though. Okay, so Astral Horizon, and I'm curious how you feel about this on so many levels. This is an aggressive frame, 55 RPM shotgun. It's got all the same stats that it had before, but oh man, the perk table for this thing is
juiced,
crazy. And so I'm going to build this thing out 3 different ways, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. But first, real quick, it still has surplus, opening shot, and killing wind perks you love to see on the old version. The only thing of note that it lost is Demolitionist. We've also had killing wind move to the 3rd column instead of the 4th, so you can now run killy wind plus like opening shot or elemental capacity or any of those new perks. So that's very cool to see that switched around. Added to the pool is threat detector, slide shot, pugilist, shot swap, 1-2 punch, elemental capacitor, snapshot, vorpal, cascade point, and swashbuckler. Oh my gosh, there's a 4th roll. I just realized I didn't write down. This thing has so much potential. The big thing to me here, when you see this thing and we talk about its hype, because I think it's the next big thing, but also
most definitely,
Imperial Decree is a new craftable aggressive frame shotgun that is also kinetic. Same slot, but it's craftable. Very accessible. Has the enhanced perks. My question, coming out and going into this, is I'm going to be thinking about Imperial Decree. Like, is it worth grinding, especially for the everyday player, grinding trials for a Astral Horizon versus an Imperial Decree they could just use seasonal engrams to get a crafted version from. So that's
well, I think it's a good balance, honestly.
True.
Especially for because people are doing different activities for that. True. Obviously, you're getting the XP to open up the engrams at the war table, right? In order to potentially get that Imperial Decree like red border by still grinding the game in general, but. Honestly, for folks that just don't want to maybe like touch trials or concern themselves with flawless per se, they could just pick up the Imperial Decree. I don't know. I personally like it. I think it adds some diversity to what folks can play, but still the intersection of where I might, as a PvP main, might go play, and maybe a PvE player might just dip into the Crucible. It'll be something like quick play, right? And they'll have something, and they'll be rewarded for their time on that side. Something similar to what I'll have over here now. I will say the Astral Horizon, has a deeper perk pool and has some advantages, but, the difference that I saw, and I don't know if this actually makes a difference per se, but the only thing I really saw between the two that stood out to me was the recoil direction. As a recoil direction on Imperial Decree, I don't know if you caught that. Imperial Decree has a recoil direction of 80 versus Astral Horizon has a recoil direction of 62. Now, I'm not a scientist like these folks in the Destiny Massive Breakdowns community. Of course, I know how certain shotguns feel. I just, it's more of a question, an open-ended question, not a statement. I just wonder, is that something that's substantial of a difference between the two? Is it gonna matter with regards to consistency or whatnot? I doubt it. I doubt it, but just something to kind of like note, and I'm interested to see people's thoughts on that.
I don't feel like it will because it's aggressive frame. You fire so slow with it anyway that I don't feel like it's going to change much, but it is an interesting observation. I do think overall, after looking at not necessarily the stats, but the perks and how they manipulate the stats and having alacrity at all on Astral Horizon is going to just boost it just in general.
That's a good point.
You can get close to a max range Imperial Decree, but you're not going to be able to max out other stats in the process, and Astral Horizon can kind of do multiple things at the same time, similar to how the slug shotgun from Trials the Inquisitor can do the same thing. You can max out range, but also max out stability and handling like at the same time. You can't necessarily go that far on this one, but it gets close. Okay, so the perks. We talked about what it has now. Here's kind of like the 3 things I have in my mind, Tony, and you tell me as a shotgun player how off of my game I am, okay? Okay, so the first thing that sticks out to me is I'm just going to jump to my number 2 on the list because it's the basic, what I think most people will go for. The only difference is I'm not running, I know there's different barrels that are the go-to, but hopefully after I put the whole build together, you can see where my head's at. I'm actually going to run Corkscrew because this is an aggressive frame, and this gives me a boost to both range and handling, and I feel like it needs both. And then I'll make up for that with the range with Accurized. Now I'll push it even further and go with Slide Shot, Opening Shot, because that's just like go-to. Like Slide Shot, it's not like Slide Ways for those who aren't as familiar. Slide Ways doesn't boost your range. Slide Shot boosts your range and stability for 3 seconds, so 20 range and 30 stability, and refills 15% of the mag. Tons of great bonuses there. Amazing perk. And stack it on top of Opening Shot, which is giving you 20 aim assist, 25 range, and smaller accuracy cones. So better accuracy. So all together, you run all that together and run a Handling Masterwork and an Adept range mod, you're at 97 range with your Opening Shot, Slide Shot.
Yeah.
And then 43 handling. So not bad at all. And then you easily, you don't even need alacrity, but it would bump you up to 100. But just at base without alacrity, you're already at 97 range. And you're at 43 handling, which is not bad on an aggressive shotgun. Obviously, I'm hurting not having quick charge here because that would help that handling out a lot. But, not bad for if you just want the rangiest basic shotgun you can get with a little bit of handling. What do you think? Am I way off my game?
No, you're definitely not way off your game. All right, so trying to say this, trying to just keep this tight. Slide Shot is awesome. So it's two things about this that I'll mention. It's Slide Shot and it's the 43 handling. So 43 handling is kind of like just the minimum of me, I'm a handling fiend, and I like to be able to swap as quickly as possible in order to get a cleanup, or if somebody's trying to push me. I mean, I'm a primary main, so I use my shotgun mostly defensively, and so to be able to just whip it out and to be able to get a clean shot off on somebody who is choosing to not primary me is just huge, and it happens all the time. And I'm certainly not knocking it because obviously so many different engagements. It's beneficial to surprise somebody by pushing up on them. If it's shotgun versus shotgun, just being aggressive with it and knocking me out. And, there's 2 more people that they have to get through if it's trials, for example. So I'm just not knocking it, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing or anything like that. So it's just defensive shotgunning. That's the minimum. So I just looked into my vault, and the shotgun that I have, my Time Lost Found Verdict, I know how it feels both on my Hunter, just without any additional handling means, and also on my Warlock that I run Ophidians on, and it has, I think, 42. Okay. So would I use this shotgun right here, especially without quick charge, now on anything but an Ophidian Warlock? Personally, I would not.
Okay.
Like 43 handling is too low for me. And so these days, Slide Shot is awesome on a shotgun. It is. And it's dependent upon whether you're running Ophidians or some other handling boosting like mechanic on whether you're going to run something like 43 handling. In my opinion, I gravitate much more towards something in that column, like Threat Detector, for example, that's going to give me some sort of handling boost, to compensate for no quick charge, and just to kind of continue to feed into my weapon swapping playstyle. So it's certainly not bad. I'm sure that there's quite a few people that would be going for something very, very similar to this. It's a playstyle choice. Let me just mention that it's a playstyle choice that I have versus saying that this is objectively bad. It's not. The other thing that I actually didn't, I guess with Slide Shot, it gives you 97 range. Is that correct? Is that how you factored that in?
Slide Shot is giving you, Slide Shot's giving you 20 range. Opening Shot is giving you 25.
25. So, is that what you factored in to get to the 97 range right there? Okay, got you.
So what I could do, I'm curious if I adjusted this and thought more about the handling rather than just the range and went with Barrel Shroud and a handling masterwork, and adept handling, because you can throw this thing's very customizable. That's something that's really cool about it. So if I decked into that, still the accurized round slide shot, opening shot, that puts me at 82 range, still really good, and 70 stability and 58 handling.
Yeah, that's if I was going to go for a slide shot, then personally for me, that's where I would probably lean towards, especially if my playstyle was more aggressive, number one, because you're sliding into people versus just swapping and somebody's pushing into you. This is I'm referring to more aggressive play style of pushing people versus a more defensive play style that I have, where I like people push me and I just flip to my shotgun and I shotgun them, right?
Yeah.
So for something like that, where so I guess this is what I'm alluding to. Actually, let me back up. 80 is where I'm always looking for the range stat. 80 is where I'm always looking for. That's kind of just like the sweet spot for me, based on where shotguns previously were, where the shotguns are now that I use the most, that I find consistent. So this is I'm not a scientist with the numbers that I'm stating here, but I am saying that 80 has felt good for me for a long time.
So what is the handling stat that you go over? That's what I'm so curious about.
Yeah. So I like 58. I like 58.
Okay.
Basically, the handling stat that I'm looking for, feeling wise and based on what I know about my shotguns, is whatever quick charge was with whatever my base. So what is it, like 20 or something? 25 plus 42. What's that? 25 plus 42.
Put me on the spot.
I know. I'm putting myself on the spot. 67. All right, good. We're going to go with 67. So yeah, the closer that I can get to about 60, I'm going to feel pretty good about that on my hunter. If I'm on my warlock, then, like obviously Aphanians give you something, and the last figure that I heard was something like 31, 32 handling, so just, factor that in. So 58 is pretty close to 60. I could do that.
Yeah,
I could do that, and you have a pretty balanced like push shotgun, again with the slide shot right there, coming into play to give you pretty close to 80 range.
Right, and then you get alacrity running. I haven't even included that yet. That's 100 range. So there you go. Yeah,
no, you're right. I like that.
Okay, so that's an interesting like basic range role if you play pretty aggressively. But the role that interested me the most,
the map machine, maybe? Is that
no? I know I named him in here. No, okay. So I'll go ahead and talk about that one because we got Killing Wind in the other column. You can run Killing Wind and Opening Shot together with this exact same setup. You just switch out Slide Shot. And now if you got Killing Wind active, you keep that same range stat because Killing Wind active gives you plus 20 range, and then you've also got 40 handling. So now my handling with that same exact setup we just talked about, Barrel Shroud, handling masterwork, adept handling, now I'm at 98 handling when Killing Wind is active. And then I've got 82 range. Let's turn on Alacrity too. If Alacrity is active, I'm at 100 range, 98 handling. Like this thing's out of this one. Then you got where it actually matters here, where it didn't matter on the SMG. I do think that 5% extra damage fall off, because shotguns have crazy damage fall off. That 5% extra is going to let you hit even further than your 100 range would even allow you to. So this is the map machine, it's just going to go above and beyond what you should be doing.
Yeah, what I like about this role is you call it the map machine. I actually call this the balance right here.
Ooh.
I call this the balance. So check it. So it allows you to still get a solid swap as a defensive shotgunner. But once you get that first kill, you can push with it.
Right.
Because Killing Wind is active. Right. So you've got options basically. Hey, do you want to be that aggressive player? Okay, all right. As soon as I get that first one, somebody pops around the corner, I get that first one. Okay, now I'm pushing into one. Yeah. I'm pushing into the second one, So, you got options basically with that one. I call that the balance role with Killing Wind and Opening Shot, which have always had like a fantastic synergy. But also, just different, but a synergy that's similar to that slot shot, Opening Shot.
That's good. Okay, well, here's my super aggressive roll. Okay, you ready for this? This is the strand. This is crazy that you can do. So with strand, we got elemental capacitor on this shotgun, and strand is letting that go wild with its airborne effectiveness. So that's giving you 20 airborne effectiveness with strand. So let's take this all together, because you got hunters with their grappling. You're getting that woven mail as soon as you grapple if you're using the exotic. And even if you're not, if you're just using the fragment, it's the fragment of ascent, granting you plus 30 handling and plus 30 airborne effectiveness. You got Icarus grip, which adept Icarus grip is giving you that plus 15 airborne effectiveness, and then plus a little bit more, that 5 handling on top of that. Yep. So you're decking this thing out. And then what I was thinking is, if you're flying in and going for that airborne effectiveness, you're going to be next to somebody if you're flying into them. So why not go threat detector, which is giving you that extra boost of within one, your 15 meters of within one enemy. You get that 15 stability, 15 reload speed, and more importantly, the 0.75 times handling animation duration multiplier. So you're
I'm following.
Super snappy here. And then you put all this together, go back to the corkscrew rifling, the accurized rounds, and I'm actually putting a range masterwork on this one. So when I'm grappling, I'll have 49 range, 71 handling, and the threat detector 0.75 times handling, animation duration scaler, and 70 airborne effectiveness. This is without an exotic, without anything else. And then if you want,
nuts.
Yeah, that's really good airborne effectiveness. See, like if you put on Foe Tracer, that puts you at 90 airborne effectiveness.
We're build crafted, baby. We're build crafted.
Yeah, or you could go extended mag and go dip your range down just a little bit, and run that with Foe Tracer for 100 airborne effectiveness, which is on a shotgun. Aggressive frame shotgun is just crazy.
Yeah. I don't think you're missing at that point. I don't think you're missing.
Okay, yeah. So basically what I'm saying is you got a lot of airborne effectiveness options using elemental capacitor and using threat detector, because you're going to be in there anyway. Might as well get that handling animation scaler.
I completely agree. Yeah.
I think it's a pretty cool build, and I actually get this. I got this shotgun to drop for me already. I didn't get this exact roll, but I got threat detector, elemental capacitor. So I'm going to be in there flying around. You can, if you see me Spider-Man, and this is what I'm doing here.
This is probably what I'm doing this week. I got you. Well, what I will say, and we'll move on, is I'm actually kind of interested. I'm actually like the two barrels that I feel like are probably S tier. Objectively, at this point is Smoothbore and Corkscrew. Smoothbore because they gave it that small buff, which I think was enough. Basically, I think it was enough in order to make it like competitive. And then Corkscrew, obviously, for exactly what you said, it's that barrel that gives you a little bit of range, but a little bit of handling as well, which is really just those are the two categories that are super beneficial on a shotgun. So if you end up decking it out with Smoothbore, Range Masterwork, Adept Range on the mod, and of course Accurized rounds, you end up getting 69 range, right? You end up getting 69 range. So that's 11 under the 80 that I said was kind of a feeling, though, right? I mean, I'm not breaking it off at that. That's not a Destiny science. That's just me saying that's what feels consistent with me across all my shotguns is about 80, but particularly aggressives is about 80, because that's what I was looking for when I was initially farming my time lost found verdict. But then putting threat detector and elemental capacitor on it,
right?
It could be that's honestly the one that I want to try out. Because I want to see, is 69 range with Smoothbore enough for me to get that level of consistency that allows me to then be on something arc to double up elemental capacitor and threat detector for the handling for that swap speed just to go crazy, because that's exactly how I ended up outfitting, if I remember correctly, my Hake shotgun that you can craft, right? I can't remember the name of that Hake shotgun that you can craft. But nonetheless, that's exactly how I have it outfitted. And let me tell you, people, that thing shoots marshmallows. So it actually heals people when I shoot people. So, so I don't know. I'm always trying to find that shotgun or that balance that gives me just, consistency of my shotgun, but just the absolute lightning fast, like swap speed. Obviously, I'm coping for the quick draw nerf. But yeah, that's the one, honestly, that I'm the most curious about. It's interesting to see so many great perks on these weapons, but I mean, it's Trials, so it's going to be a juiced perk pool. I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. Okay, well, I'm excited to get some more rolls of this. I only got 3, but one of them is the airborne one. It just doesn't have much range, so I'm excited to get some more rolls. Okay.
Or get in somebody's face, Lego. Get in somebody's face, baby.
I'm definitely going to. That's what the rest of Iron Banner, I think I might do this. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely flying around with Strand doing this. Okay. Speaking of Iron Banner, we got these Iron Banner weapons. Yeah. We're going to fly through them pretty fast here because 3 of them are just small adjustments. Bite of the Fox, Hero's Burden, and Wise and Rebuke. I know Wise and Rebuke, Hero's Burden probably aren't many people's radar, but there were small changes that I want y'all to know about. Bite of the Fox, aggressive kinetic sniper rifle, slow firing, 72 RPM. Stats-wise, some of the lowest range, stability, and aim assist stats for aggressive, but also has the lowest zoom at 43, which is very appealing. It just has that little hat scope on it. And a lot of people don't like that. Yeah,
it's different.
But I pulled it out, just my old version of it with the actual roll that I'm going to recommend here, and it surprised me. It was very good. It was I had a snapshot opening shot roll sitting in my vault, busted it out, and oh my gosh, dude, it just immediately snapped to head. Somebody slid through, snapped him, right off spawn. Oh yeah, it was good.
That's the roll. Yeah.
It lost hip fire grip, which is probably the saddest thing for most people who like this.
Thank you. Exactly. I didn't know if you were going to mention it or not. I was like, why are we? I'm sorry. Why did we lose hip fire grip?
It was the thing that made this unique. This and the low zoom was hip fire grip, and so it was the number one comment I saw. I just released a video. If you want to see this stuff in action, you can go check out my YouTube channel. But hip fire grip was the main thing that people were like, why? Why did you take this away from me? So Hipfire Grip, Threat Detector, Rampage, Field Prep, and Ambitious Assassin are all gone. And they added Envious Assassin, No Distraction, Slick Draw, and then the 4th column, Iron Gaze, Under Over, and Vorpal. Which I will say, for PvE, for those who don't like raiding, they don't have a succession, maybe you couldn't do a Grandmaster Nightfall, maybe you don't have Silicon Neuroma, this is the kinetic sniper you want. Envious Assassin and Vorpal for PvE sounds pretty good. Overloading your magazine with Vorpal shots, that's pretty cool. And also
100.
You got an option here now, no distractions and opening shot. If you like laning a sniper, it isn't my playstyle, but I know there are people out there that like to do it. If you're scoped in, you get that flinch reduction from no distractions, and then you got extra aim assist and range from opening shot. Not a bad roll.
And I'm actually kind of surprised that I don't see more no distraction rolls popping up in the Crucible whenever I spec people on their sniper, simply because we ended up getting those sniper changes that increase flinch, right? So it's definitely something to take a look at. I'm not a sniper, so I haven't felt out no distraction since the sniper changes. There may be something to the fact that most people just don't value it. But yeah, I'm gonna just briefly say, I'm disappointed that hipfire grip got taken off of it, and maybe we were kind of alluding to it, but the reason why most people like that hipfire grip on Bite of the Fox is because as an aggressive sniper, it provides you with a more consistent means to defend yourself against shotgun pushers, for example, because you get a hipfire grip and then maybe you put freehand grip on it as well. You get a very accurate snipe, hipfire snipe into somebody on the body, and then a quick melee. It's very consistent for defending yourself in close range as a sniper, and somebody that doesn't have a shotgun to defend yourself against those folks. So it is what it is, but I was disappointed to see that.
Yeah, I'm bummed to see it go too. I'm bummed I didn't have one in my vault to prepare for this moment. And then I guess if you're looking for an exact roll recommendation, fluted, flared magwell or accurized. Either one will really do there. But fluted is really the just go-to. I feel like flared magwell is good for that reload speed. And then snapshot, opening shot, handling masterwork. I say put a targeting mod on it. But yeah, if you have an old hipfire grip one, for sure that freehand grip is the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and you said it right there as well, like on the notes. No reason to go for Iron Gaze when opening shot is right there. I'm kind of curious if they would have put Iron Gaze in the other column,
the third column,
the perk column.
Yeah, it feels like a miss. Interesting. This whole thing, this sniper feels like a miss. Like maybe for PvE it's good, but it's a Iron Banner weapon. Like, why couldn't you have thrown Iron Gaze and opening shot together? Why couldn't you keep hipfire grip and maybe even like go further and put something else to double down on hip firing? You know?
Offhand strike.
Or even, they could have put firmly planted here, which we haven't talked about. They could have put firmly planted and hipfire grip in different columns. That would have been cool. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I don't really have anything else.
No, I would agree with you. And what do we got next? We got Hero's Burden.
Hero's Burden, adaptive 900 RPM, void SMG, 0.73 second optimal TTK against 10 Resil, takes 12 crits to do so. Just a heads up, lightweights can do it with 10 crits and only 2 body shots. So yeah, here's my thing. I don't really care for this archetype adaptive 900 RPM. It just makes me wish it was a lightweight. That's how I feel about it.
That's crazy. So are you saying we're just gonna skip the rest of the section, go on to the next weapon?
That's what I would do if it was up to me. Except I would let you know that it now has destabilizing rounds on it, which is the most fun PvE perk I may have ever used, because not only does it blow up like volatile rounds and hurt enemies next to it, it's like poison and spreads to the enemies next to it and makes them volatile. So
super cool.
No matter what, whether you are playing Crucible or PvE player at all, like if you interact with PvE activities, you need to get this because it's the only primary in the entire game that has destabilizing rounds.
As of right now. And to kind of just like harp back on what you just said, like just basically skipping this weapon. It just seems like they have turned it into a PvE. Weapon. They've kind of just doubled down on that, because before it also had repulsor. I love repulsor brace, particularly in PvE. Now it's dope, and we've spoken about this before on previous podcast episodes. It's very good in PvP as well, but man, I love that thing in PvE. And so destabilizing rounds being such a top tier perk, like automatically out the box in PvE, it just seems like they're kind of doubling down on it. Another reason why I feel like maybe they've shifted this more to a PvE, because there's plenty of PvP specific weapons. It's just like, it's obvious that this is a PvP weapon that you get out of PvE, right? Now the reverse is true here, and I kind of like that, because I don't feel like there's as many weapons in PvP that are like just so desirable for PvE to get that cross-pollination between playlists, right? So while we might be disappointed that this is no longer, I mean, I'm not, because I got like an OG roll that's like dope, so I'm gonna just go ahead I'm gonna go ahead and flex for a second. I know folks were upset with me about my mind benders last episode, but I'm gonna let you know my ball do be thick. And I mean, just objectively, zoom wise, based on the fact that you could have sights, I believe, is it sights? It's sights. You ended up getting a much better zoom, like Hero's Burden, the sunset version versus the current vision.
Gotcha.
But anyway, I like the fact that they're doubling down on this being like a really strong PvE option, not so much worried about it being a PvP option, just because I see that cross-pollination between those different demographics, between those two different communities as always a good thing. And especially since we have so much of that, of PvP people going over to PvE to get those top tier PvP options, it's nice to see that we're gonna get some PvE folks trying to do the same over here.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, this gun, it's not that it has bad stats, like it has a great range stat, actually. It's just that it doesn't have rangefinder, and it's not going to compete with the other stuff. And bottom line, like I just said, I just wish it was a lightweight. These adaptives, they do less crit damage and just give you better body shot damage, so more chances you end up in a less then optimal situation versus a lightweight. Like a lightweight, you're going to get that optimal time to kill. This, you're not as much likely you're going to hit those body shots. And so I don't know. It's just not my thing. This one, like you said, it lost Repulsor Brace. It also lost Eye of the Storm, which is a huge PvP perk. Vorpal, Well-Rounded, and Air Assault it also lost, but it did gain Under Pressure, Gut Shot, Straight, Moving Target, and Dynamic Sway. So those are all perks that I probably would stack on this thing. So if I'm building it out, I would put Full Bore and Accurize, go all range masterwork.
Yeah, definitely.
And because you've got Zen Moment and Dynamic Sway you can combine together. I guess I shouldn't speak too harshly on this weapon because I don't have this role yet. It's brand new. Zen Moment and Dynamic Sway have both never been here.
That's a good point.
Maybe it feels incredible and I just don't know yet because I love both of those perks. And that still gives it with that a range of 79 and stability of 30 with Dynamic Sway and Zen Moment. That sounds very, very stable. But I'm just not a fan of the archetype. Maybe that role will blow me away, but so far I have reservations.
Yeah, and just to mention as well, just for completeness, you can actually stack this thing out for full range, right? You can get 99 range on this.
Wait.
99 range on this. You can.
Are you serious? How you get 99 range on this?
How you think? Iron Reach, baby. Iron Reach is right there.
Yeah, Iron Reach. Yeah.
But you know why you probably didn't click on that? Because you have 0 stability.
No, I didn't click on it because it's so hard to pass up Dynamic Sway. I was blinded by Dynamic Sway, and it's just my go-to. And so I understand 99 range. It's something. It's not nothing. But 99 range with 0 stability is
0 stability is that's something to talk. Yeah, that's something.
Listen, they're both roles worth trying out. I would say.
I'm not with Lego on that.
You don't think so?
Sure. Try it out, people, with 0 stability. Let me know what you think. I don't think it's gonna be good. You do get 23.28 meters before damage fall off with it. I just don't. I don't know. Let me see. Hold on. Let me just click this. Let me click this. So if you. That's a difference of like 2 meters, basically 2 meters with Iron Reach and without. But without Iron Reach, you actually have some stability. You got 30 stability. Yeah, I can't. So it'd be interesting. I would just like to see a video of it just jumping up in the air and you not being able to control it and the accuracy just being like hella.
Maybe I'll get the roll. Maybe I'll get it.
It'd be a meme. I'd love to see it.
Okay, I do need to talk about the next one though, Wise and Rebuke, because they basically, this is the opposite of Hero's Burden. Or maybe opposite of Bite of the Fox would be a better example. They took away the thing that it was like, this is what made it unique. Wise and Rebuke, I made a video about how this weapon's kind of obsolete now because Mida's Reckoning does everything it does but better. But here we go. They took this fusion rifle, everything bad about it, and threw it away and gave it everything I could have ever wanted. I'm kind of amazed. Okay, so leaving this is a high impact fusion rifle, 960 charge time, shoots 5 bolts, only needs 3 bolts to kill up to 9 Resil, 4 bolts to kill up to 10 Resil. That's the only Resil that needs 4 bolts. Leaving the perk pool is Cornered, hate it. Iron Gaze, not worth it. Well-Rounded, I don't really use it. Subsistence, that's a PvE perk. And Moving Target, that one's kind of worth it, but Okay, and then they put in Fragile Focus, which is awesome to see on a fusion rifle. I haven't, I think I need to think about Fragile Focus on here a little bit more. Adding that plus 20 range, that's pretty good. Okay, so Fragile Focus, High Impact Reserves, Fusion Go-To, Volt Shot, PvE best multiplier on a fusion rifle outside of the Catalyst for Two-Tailed, and then Shot Swap. That one's the one that's kind of whatever. And Offhand Strike. Not only that, but they put Offhand Strike in the third column, so you've still got Successful Warm-Up and Backup Plan in the fourth that you can pair it with, or High Impact Reserves if you just want to go all out with everything range. So it's incredible, honestly. Like, I got some clips back from Dauntless Light, shout out, who got it like 2-3 weeks early, showed me some of his clips of him hip firing this thing with Offhand Strike and Successful Warm-Up while he's getting suspended, flying up in the air and just nailing a guy 10 meters like it was nothing. You know how hard it is to hit people when you're suspended?
Yeah.
So here's the deal. You can to me, play this two different ways. First, I go all range. That's just me. If you're on mouse and keyboard, you might want to put in stability. But for me, it's extended barrel, projection fuse, range masterwork. Then my personal role that I'm going for that I haven't got yet is backup plan and offhand strike, because backup plan on a high impact fusion rifle makes it just 4 bolts to kill across the board.
Yep,
so you whip it out,
you
get that fast kill that's like the speed of an adaptive, and then you got offhand strike active. You keep it out, and you can get post 20 meter kills, like 25 meter kills with this thing from the hip afterwards. So
yeah, and that's 7 seconds, by the way. That's how long that perk lasts. That is extremely generous for that sort of situation.
And then if you don't like that, say you're not a backup plan fan, that's fine. You got successful warm-up you can stack on it. So it takes a long time to get that first shot off, but once you do, you're firing faster than an adaptive. It's like between the speed of a rapid and an adaptive, and that successful warm-up lasts 6 seconds, offhand strike lasts 7 seconds, and so you're firing that fast and post 20 meters. Like, that is disgusting.
That sounds scary.
And I got that roll. I got it today.
What?
Yeah, I know. I got it.
see this right here, chat. This is why I always tell them, like, I'm always hoping that one time I play Rumble, you know? Oh, okay, that I'll find Lego in there and we'll go at it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm hoping, but at the same time, I'm just hoping that it's a season where something like this ain't out.
It's like a 4.5 out of 5 too. Listen to this. I got range masterwork, projection fuse. I got corkscrew. So it's not extended, but real close. Yeah. And then offhand strike, successful warm up. It's like,
that's crazy. That's good. What are you rocking for a mod on it? On that one?
Targeting adjuster for
targeting
sure.
Adjuster, you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know a lot of people want to run counterbalance here.
That's
I understand, the desire to, but it might be okay. But I prefer any extra aim assist to like connect those bolts. When offhand strike is active, recoil direction ain't gonna mean a thing, and you're using this thing for offhand strike. So
that's true.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Honestly, you halfway converted a lot of my folks to target adjuster after that one clip that you put on Twitter where you like mapped somebody. It was on the inside beat on Radiant Cliffs.
Oh yeah,
you remember that clip? You converted. Yep. Yeah, you converted so many of my people to targeting adept off of that one right there.
Forget stability. Ooh. Forget it.
Now, I guess the last question I had for you is, let me see. I feel like I had another. Oh, okay. Well, two things. One. Do you think that counterbalance over targeting would matter more on M&K versus controller? You still would subscribe to target adjuster?
Here's the thing,
he's shaking his head.
If you run anything but offhand strike, yes, maybe. But like if you're running under pressure and successful armor, or under pressure backup plan, which I have that role too, and feels very solid. Not S tier, but like top A tier, very good. Okay. I would say it might be worth it. I don't still with that role, but it might be worth it. But if you're running offhand strike at all, you don't need it. Like that, you can watch the reticule on screen. It just like shrinks down to nothing. And I'm actually okay. Here's a heads up, spicy tip. If you've made it this far into the podcast, I gotta. This may not be a thing. Okay, just disclaimer. But I think there's a trick here, where in a fusion rifle and offhand strike, where you can get the offhand strike benefits while ADSing by ADSing right at the end of your charge, because when you scope in, that reticule that shows your accuracy cone, it doesn't get bigger when you zoom in. I've been watching it. When offhand strike's active, I'm scoping in and it still stays just as tight. And I've been messing with it, not on this because I didn't have it yet, but Royal Executioner has offhand strike. And whenever I have it active and I ADS right at the last second, I swear I don't miss.
Why would you tell people this? Do you see my face this entire time? Why would you do it? Why would you do it?
Well, it's unconfirmed. This is just me messing around. But here's what led me to this is one, I play this way anyway, but two, back in D1, they had the developers on at that time talk about how hipfire grip gave you hipfire grip accuracy bonuses when you zoomed in. If you pre-charged beforehand, it would activate both benefits of ADSing and hipfire at the same time. And I think that has traveled into this game. It's been unconfirmed. No one's ever said this is for real. This is just me from past history of Destiny and the way it feels now. And I think that there might be something there.
Interesting.
So just a little, this is just a little treat.
Little nugget.
Yeah, a little nugget.
all right.
Okay.
I guess the last thing I'll say, and then you could move on to the next one, because I know we got to wrap things up. Is it was interesting to see Fragile Focus in the same category as backup plan, in particular, because it's just like offhand strike, you got to get a kill first, right?
Yeah.
But if you put Fragile Focus over there,
100 range.
So yeah, that's the thing.
Range.
Like backup plan gives you the speed that you need in order to avoid getting hit, so that Fragile Focus stays active for you to get the range benefits.
Those are in different columns, though. So Fragile Focus is in the same column as backup.
No,
plan.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah. If I was to look at this thing as far as a role, my wish list would be for Fragile Focus to be in a different category to backup plan, so that the speed with which I could shoot, with backup plan, it would minimize the time frame that I would potentially get hit to deactivate Fragile Focus, so that I would hopefully get the range benefit of Fragile Focus with the speed, like on the first kill, like without, because again, offhand strike, you have to get a kill first for it to activate.
Yeah.
But Fragile Focus, the only conditional is you just don't take any damage, right? So
I will say, if you get an offhand strike Fragile Focus roll, I wouldn't throw it away. 100 range. If you can get 100 range and have offhand strike active, that shot could be not record breaking because you don't have the rangefinder to break things, but it would look really gross in the clip. That's all I'll say.
Okay. All right. I'm going to keep that in mind. Sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right, what we got next?
Jorum's Claw. This is a returning adaptive solar pulse rifle with 390 RPM and requires 7 bullets to kill at 10 resil at an abysmal 0.93 seconds. Abysmal, y'all. The firing 3 shots from that thing and hitting that 0.93 seconds it's slow. But on the flip side, it can be very easily pushed into the 2-burst kill with just Radiant. So good to know. You can get that 2-burst kill, and then aim assist and stability are slightly on the lower side of the stats, but range is a bit high for the adaptive pulse rifles at 49. The new version, the most important thing to note here is there are no more scopes. You're stuck with the base 17 zoom, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Some people like the lower zoom on a pulse rifle for the engagement range they work in, and you now have access to things like arrowhead break that can lower, or make you have better recoil direction. So you got those barrels available to you. So that's the gist of everything coming back. Previously, this pulse rifle, it's so old that it only had one perk on it, which was Outlaw, which it retains that perk, which is kind of awesome. That it's like, oh, hey, you like how it used to feel? You can still do that. But now you have Outlaw with Golden Tricorn, Incandescent, Frenzy, Iron Reach, Kill Clip, Head Seeker. It's just that last
options.
Column. Oh, so many good options.
It's juice, because I remember you telling me, and maybe it was Kutch as well, that this particular subfamily was pretty sensitive to damage perks.
It is, yes.
Right? Pretty sensitive damage perks. There's just certain weapons where it's just at base, it's just nothing special, but it's truly really sensitive to damage perks. So it was nice to see that you've got Kill Clip, that you've got Frenzy, that you've got Golden Tricorn up there to kind of push it out to do something, just do something a little different, basically.
Yeah.
So,
I want to clarify with that too. Radiant is a just Radiant is a 2-burst at 10 resil. 10 resil.
Yeah.
So not just
I'm sorry, I'll hold on. At 10 resil, just that small boost?
Just that small boost. So you can 2-burst up to 3 resil, I think, with this gun at base, but that's pretty low. But just with Radiant, then you're any resil, very consistent. So good to remember here. And then, you got some interesting options with Golden Tricorn, Kill Clip. Those are and Frenzy, those would be the 3 damage boosting ones. I think people are also going to be very interested in Head Seeker.
I figured.
So lots of there's like a lot of interesting things here for PvE too. In the first column or third column, we've got Outlaw, Offhand Strike, Iron Grip, Gutshot Straight, Encore, and Moving Target. I think Encore, Moving Target are really going to be the go-tos here. I don't feel like Outlaw is as strong. You can go Outlaw Kill Clip, the classic. But I feel like for damage perks, Golden Tricorn is going to be the play. Because like you said, you don't need much to boost it over. Kill Clip only lasting for... upon finishing the reload within 3.8 seconds, then it lasts for 5 seconds, whereas Golden Tricorn is going to last for 7
seconds. Yep.
And it's only 15%, but that's enough to push you
enough
over.
To put it over the top. Yeah. 2 burst at 10.
So you just keep going, and then you use something like Encore and Golden Tricorn both have 7-second timers. That's identical.
Perfect synergy.
So you just keep going. So I think that's going to be my go-to kill roll is Encore and Golden Tricorn. I'd probably run Arrowhead, Ricochet. I'm big on Arrowhead on pulses. It just
Arrowhead is amazing.
Recoil direction. I just need it.
Well, we're talking about pulses. We're talking about pulses too. They just juice just out the box, honestly, as far as range and that sort of thing. So it's just from there. It's just about consistency and the fact that Arrowhead break is just beautiful, like a beautiful barrel because you get that plus 30 recoil direction, if I remember. It's plus 27 is what they say.
Well, it's 30. It will only need 27 on this weapon.
Okay, good.
Plus 10 handling.
That's why it says that.
So it's just a ton of perks. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love it because it's plus 10 handling. You know me as a handling fiend. It's like beautiful because if I really am looking to stack into recoil direction, then I generally don't need range. That means I'm probably going to go for some handling. So it's just it's built for somebody like me that thinks like that.
Yeah, and there is this thing where like kill clip can take you to 1 bullet less of a kill than Golden Tricorn can, but to me, that isn't as important as the timer. That's going to differ, player to player. Like you might want to use that Outlaw Kill Clip one. I know that most players out there, though, they're not even worried about stacking the kill streak. They just want the consistency of the weapon.
Yes.
If that's what you're looking for, I think Moving Target Head Seeker is a really solid
Completely
roll.
agree.
Because then it's not that Head Seeker is going to make it to where you're killing any faster, but it's going to be really consistent at connecting your shots. Moving Target's already giving you that bump and aim assist, letting you strafe well, and then Head Seeker, anytime that you get a body shot, it's upping your aim assist towards the head and also giving you some extra damage to compensate it. It doesn't completely make up for it, but that 3-burst kill is going to be super, super easy to do. So I would run the same setup as just an Arrowhead, Ricochet, and then just whatever you want for, honestly, stability, range, handling, masterwork. It's not really going to make a difference to me. I feel like it's going to be so minuscule. And then I would probably run a targeting mod on it because if you're running Arrowhead, don't need anything else.
Yeah, I would agree. And certainly another thing, if you're running that moving target head seeker roll, why not just continue to double down on, targeting just to make it as consistent as possible?
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you, definitely.
I do have one last thing here that is two kind of in one. Gutshot Straight's here. Gutshot Straight's terrible, but there's this super interesting interaction. So Gutshot Straight and Head Seeker. Think about it for a second. You got Gutshot Straight that is increasing your body shot damage and taking away your aim assist cone. But then Head Seeker, every time you get a body shot, which you're doing more of, is giving you more aim assist and increasing your crit damage when you hit a crit. So hit headshots, you're getting bonus damage. Hit body shot, you're getting bonus damage. You're decreasing your aim assist, but you're also increasing your aim assist. And there's this weird, I don't know how it's going to interact. I've been talking with the Destiny Master Breakdowns community. There's a chance maybe Head Seeker will freak out with the Gutshot Straight extra damage and it will boost the Head Seeker damage, but probably not. But regardless, it's just too interesting of a combo to not mention. And then on top of all of that, even if you don't roll for that combo, for PvE, Incandescent goes by body shot damage apparently. So if you run Gutshot Straight, anytime you get a kill, your Incandescent explosion will be more powerful because of Gutshot Straight. Just
what?
Out of the gate. I know. Isn't that crazy? I had multiple people come to me talking about this, though, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's insane. Okay, I need that roll. Especially
because like 3 things I didn't even know.
Especially because of our favorite Titan exotic, Path of Burning Steps. This is a solar weapon.
Yes.
Incandescent Gutshot Firewalker build. Like,
I'm looking for that now.
Yeah. This sounds pretty fun. This is the one
for me.
Either that or gold. It has Golden Tricorn too. You can stack that 50% damage in PvE on top of Path of Burning Steps, up to 40%. 40% plus 50% plus 22% from your Surge mods. I'm not going to calculate that right now, but big PvE numbers.
Yeah. No, that sounds amazing. No, this is the one. Like, me reading this one, you telling me about this roll right here, now I'm interested in this particular, because this pulse rifle doesn't really do too much different than another pulse rifle that you can pick up, but that's currently in the sandbox, right? Doesn't do, too much more, I should say, more. And so we've spoken about it before, just looking at these different weapons and finding something niche on that weapon that it can do based on its perks or whatever else, but usually based on its perks on the end that, something else can't do or that isn't available or obtainable. Yep. And that Gutshot Straight Headseeker is really interesting.
Right?
And then I will definitely be putting on the Path of Burning Steps for that too and playing on Titan. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one some more. I'm gonna let this one die just a little bit more and see if I can conjure up some damage stacking with this thing, because this is an interesting gun,
Yeah.
Okay, well, we need to bring this episode to close. We've gone so long. We love this game, I feel like, and there's so many exciting things. We had just a huge Crucible blog post today.
We didn't know that was dropping. We were just gonna talk about the weapons,
I literally I DM'd Tony before that dropped and was like, yo, I'm the most prepared I've ever been for the show. I think this is going to be great. Got all my notes written. Crucible blog post.
Right. And you know what? So that was on your end, right?
Yeah.
On my end, I did Crucible because this is just a crazy Trials weekend. I usually don't do Trials. So not only is it enjoyable for me because I got to do my favorite, game mode, Crucible game mode. It was my favorite Crucible game map. The population was thick. It was just a blast. And all my community and beyond wanted that SMG. So I had plenty of people to help out. I think I slept 2 hours in 48 hours. 2 hours and 4. I think I did like a 30-hour stream and then like a 22-hour stream or something. I can't even remember. I literally can't remember. So either way, when you texted me, I was still trying to get in another nap and trying to get my sleep back, And so you say, man, I got everything prepped. I was the most ready I've been, you know what I'm saying? And then they drop that and I'm just like, yo, bro, I'm just trying to get some sleep. I wake up, thinking, I've got like 3 hours. I've got plenty of time to finish prepping and stuff like that. No, they dropped the Crucible, the one we've been waiting for, Crucible like blog post. So that was what was going on with me today.
Oh man, we need to expect at this point the Wednesday twabs, the what twab, where twab, they're messing with us. It's all the W's. Okay, we need to go to bed. It's you don't even know how to sleep. Me neither. Oh man. Okay, well it's been fun, guys. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for these weapons. I'm excited to just play some more Destiny, honestly. So.
Yes, 100%. Try it. We're still chat. As soon as I get my 5 out of 5, then we'll go in there and we'll see if we can get this round robin like one shot. We still believe it can happen,
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. For real, it's just been a blast having you here. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Destiny Massive Breakdown stuff. We got the Twitter, we got the podcast. Leave a review. Let us read it out loud. If it's if it's 4-star even, I'd probably read it out loud if it's 4-star. Just saying.
Yeah. I'm with it.
On Twitter, we got our Discord where we're always talking feedback, questions, or just let us know what you think about the episode.
Yeah, and just remember that you can connect to all things Destiny Massive Breakdown at destinymassivebreakdowns.com, including the podcast Versus Enemies hosted by Court, Impetus, and Saint Caper, and of course Beneath Twin Suns, a Star Wars podcast hosted by our very own Kutch and Mercules. You'll find our social links and invite to join the conversation in Discord, episodes new and old, the occasional guidepost, and more well-written resources right there. And this has been Ill Physics, aka Tony. If you did not previously know me, you can find me at Ill Physics on most things, including Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. And of course, we have the fantastic Lego
LaFlash on YouTube. Come check me out.
Yeah.
And I just went to the weirdest place in my head. There's this movie called Four Christmases that is just my favorite stupid Christmas movie. Anyways, yeah, a kid yells at a guy, beats him up. He's like, Google me, I'm on YouTube. That's what I just thought of. Okay, anyways.
Intrusive thoughts.
Yes, intrusive thoughts at 3 a.m. We've had a blast with you guys. Go check Tony's thick stream out on Twitch. And come hang out at the YouTube. Come join the Massive Breakdowns Discord, and we'll see y'all next time.
Peace.
Peace.